Chapter 133. Junior, congratulations on passing the Sword Steel's test and obtaining the qualification to enter the Inner Palace for the final test. The Sword Steel shattered, and the Steel Spirit appeared in the Sword Steel's space, speaking in a much gentler tone. He had waited in the True Spirit's secret realm for more than 100,000 years, and finally, someone had passed the Sword Steel's test. Phew, I finally succeeded. Seeing the Steel Spirit appear, Yi Chunfeng let out a long sigh of relief. After using the instant kill sword at such a high intensity, Yi Chunfeng was almost out of energy. Fortunately, he had passed the test in the end. According to our agreement, I will now give you your reward. As he spoke, ripples appeared in front of the Steel Spirit, and 3 treasures with powerful sealing runes appeared in front of Yi Chunfeng. These 3 treasures are your reward for passing the Sword Steel's test. However, you can only take away all 3 treasures if you pass the Inner Hall's final test. Now you can only take one. The Sword Steel said slowly. Senior, may I know what these 3 treasures are? Yi Chunfeng asked as he looked at the 3 treasures that were sealed within the runes. The first treasure is called the Gigantic Fault Heavenly Sword. It is made from a whole piece of stardust iron and more than 10 kinds of precious materials. It weighs 10,000 pounds. However, when it was made, it did not incorporate any offensive formation inscriptions into it. Therefore, this Gigantic Fault Heavenly Sword is only a low-grade celestial weapon. The Tablet Spirit opened the seal of the first treasure and introduced it. A lower-rank heaven weapon made from stardust iron. After knowing the Gigantic Fault Heavenly Sword's grade and weight, Yi Chunfeng could not help but take a deep breath, and his eyes were burning with passion. Heaven weapons were legendary treasures, and there was not a single one in the entire North Snow region. More importantly, this heaven weapon was made from stardust iron. Normally, when forging an earth weapon, just adding a fingernail-sized piece of stardust iron would greatly increase the quality of the earth weapon, not to mention such a big piece. Moreover, the Heavenly Fault Heavenly Sword itself did not have any offensive runes sealed. It could be said that this Gigantic Fault Heavenly Sword was tailor-made for him. If he could obtain it, even if he encountered a Heavenly Beast Immortal expert, he was confident that he could kill them with the help of the Gigantic Fault Heavenly Sword. Yi Chunfeng was deeply moved by the Titanic Fault Heavenly Sword, but he did not make a decision immediately. Instead, he looked at the second sealing treasure. The second treasure is a 1.5 caddy bottle of water from the Spring of Life. It can replenish 3,000 years of lifespan. The Tablet Spirit undid the seal on the second treasure and introduced it. Spring of Life. Looking at the crystal white porcelain bottle floating in the air, Yi Chunfeng was even more shocked. The Spring of Life was also known as the Water of Vitality. It was a type of divine water that could restore life force and only existed in legends. Normally, the Water of Life was useless to ordinary martial artists, but to old monsters who had 1 foot in the coffin, it was the most precious. If the water of the Spring of Life appeared in the soul-fighting continent, it would set off a bloodbath. Senior, may I know what the third treasure is? Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and suppressed the shock in the depths of his heart. He cast his gaze towards the third sealing treasure and asked. The third treasure is a secret technique called the Life Spirit Technique, said the Tablet Spirit. Secret technique. Yi Chunfeng knew how precious secret techniques were. The 6 Meridian Heavenly Shield that he had obtained was a secret technique. It was because of the 6 Meridian Heavenly Shield that he could make up for his weak spiritual beast and reach where he was now. The Life Spirit Technique is based on the essence of life. It is a secret technique that burns one's life force in exchange for a terrifying amount of life force. It is a secret technique that can increase one's strength instantly. At most, it can increase one's cultivation level by an entire realm in a short time. Alright, I've already told you the origins of these 3 treasures in detail. Now, it's your turn to choose, said the Tablet Spirit as it looked at Yi Chunfeng, who had sunk into deep thought. The Titanic Fault Heavenly Sword, the Water of Life, the Life Spirit Technique. Looking at the three treasures, Yi Chunfeng kept making his choice. Although the Titanic Fault Heavenly Sword was the most useful to him at the moment, he knew that as his strength increased, the Water of Life and the Life Spirit Technique would be far more valuable than the Titanic Fault Heavenly Sword. Have you decided? What is your choice? Asked the Tablet Spirit. The Life Spirit Technique. Yi Chunfeng finally made his decision and chose the secret technique, the Life Spirit Technique. Haha, you are indeed very smart. This Life Spirit Technique is the most precious of the three treasures. You may not be able to understand its power now, but you will understand its power later on. Increasing one's cultivation level by an entire realm is a secret technique that can change one's fate. It is enough to make those big shots fight over it. The Tablet Spirit was very satisfied with Yi Chunfeng's choice and laughed loudly. As for the Titanic Fault Heavenly Sword and the Water of Life, you have a chance to obtain them. As long as you can pass the Inner Hall's final assessment, you will be able to obtain these two items. Alright, now you can study the Life Spirit Technique. Once you have done so, I will send you to the Inner Hall. The Tablet Spirit handed the Life Spirit Technique Cultivation Jade slip to Yi Chunfeng. Thank you, Senior. Yi Chunfeng nodded and took the jade slip. He injected his soul power into it and began to study the Life Spirit Technique. Life was the foundation of a person. It was the foundation of Qi where luck was. The change of life was the change of a person. As Yi Chunfeng studied the Life Spirit Technique, a large number of cryptic chants appeared in his mind. Fortunately, the God-Eater brain was powerful enough to help Yi Chunfeng gain insight. Gradually, Yi Chunfeng felt a large amount of life force appear in his mind. They intertwined and merged, making him feel like he was in control of fate. Oh, the life force! He has mastered the Life Spirit Technique so quickly? 2 days later, the Tablet Spirit was shocked to discover that there were strands of life force in Yi Chunfeng's body. Its expressionless face was shocked. Could it be that he is fated with the Spirit Tribe? Is he the person that the Spirit Tribe has been waiting for? The Tablet Spirit could not help but become excited when it thought of the possibility. After another 2 days, with the help of the God-Eater brain, Yi Chunfeng gradually mastered the Life Spirit Technique. He had completely grasped the method of burning life force in exchange for the power of destiny. However, life was too precious. Yi Chunfeng did not dare to waste it recklessly to test the true power of the Life Spirit Technique. You have mastered the Life Spirit Technique? The Tablet Spirit asked with anticipation when it saw Yi Chunfeng awaken from his enlightenment after only 4 days of cultivation. Yes, I have mastered the Life Spirit Technique, Yi Chunfeng said with a nod. Your talent is the highest I have ever seen. Perhaps you can create a miracle and pass the final test of the Inner Palace. Knowing that Yi Chunfeng had really mastered the Life Spirit Technique, the Tablet Spirit was not stingy with its praise. Senior, how difficult is the final test of the Inner Palace? Yi Chunfeng asked. The test of the Inner Palace is set based on one's bone age. The younger the bone age, the easier the test. Therefore, the difficulty of the final test of the Inner Palace should not be as high as you imagine. However, if you fail the test, you will still lose your life. If you succeed, you will inherit the most precious treasure of the true spirit secret plane. Therefore, it is up to you to decide if you want to accept the final test, the Tablet Spirit explained in detail. Senior, I am willing to accept the final test. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and said firmly. Okay, I will now open the path to the Inner Palace for you. When the time comes, all you need to do is drip your blood on the control key of the Inner Palace, and you will be able to enter the space of the final test. Junior, I wish you good luck. Chapter 134. It's so dark. After entering the spatial passageway that led to the endless void, Yi Chunfeng could only see pitch-black darkness. He couldn't see anything and could only proceed cautiously. After advancing for about 15 minutes, a white light flashed in front of him. In the pitch-black spatial passageway, a beam of white light appeared. It enveloped a solemn-looking black sculpture that was hugging a long sword. Buzz! As Yi Chunfeng slowly approached the sculpture, a towering sword aura gushed out from the sculpture's body and slashed at Yi Chunfeng with a sharp aura. Sword aura attack! Yi Chunfeng didn't panic when he was suddenly attacked by the sculpture. Similarly, a sharp sword aura gushed out from his body and pierced through the firmament, breaking the sculpture's attack with a single strike. Buzz, buzz, buzz! With his attack broken, the statue's black gemstone-like eyes shone with a sharp glint. Streaks of sword energy shot out one after another, continuously attacking Yi Chunfeng like a torrent of mercury. Break! The sculpture's sword aura wasn't strong. Yi Chunfeng raised his sword aura to the second layer of heaven and broke the sculpture's attack. He slashed at the sculpture's body and shattered the sculpture. The spatial passageway turned pitch black again, sharpening the sword aura. The moment Yi Chunfeng shattered the sculpture, the God-Eater brain captured a trace of the sword aura's intent. I didn't expect the path to the inner hall to have such benefit. It seems like this is another reward for passing the sword monument test. Yi Chunfeng controlled the God-Eater brain to deduce the sword aura that the sculpture released. After gaining some insights, he continued to advance deeper into the pitch-black spatial passageway. Buzz! After 15 minutes, another beam of white light lit up in the pitch-black spatial passageway. It shone on a sculpture that was holding a sword with one hand and had sharp eyes and a sharp sword aura. In the next moment, an extremely fast sword radiance tore through the pitch-black spatial passageway like a thunderbolt from the 9 heavens and slashed at Yi Chunfeng. Sword aura second layer of heaven. Yi Chunfeng's body moved slightly. Using his hand as a sword, he slashed out a sharp sword momentum to meet the attack. Yi Chunfeng was in no hurry to shatter the single sword sculpture in order to experience the sword force concept contained in it. Instead, he suppressed his sword force to the second layer of heaven and continued to fight with him. As time passed, the sword force contained within the single sword sculpture grew weaker and weaker. Finally, a crisp cracking sound was heard. The single sword sculpture that had exhausted its sword momentum shattered, turning into dust and dissipating in the dark space. Who created these sculptures? They are so mysterious. Yi Chunfeng continued to sharpen his sword momentum, but he did not stop. He continued to move forward while comprehending what he had just comprehended. While Yi Chunfeng was in the pitch-black space, receiving the baptism of the sword statues one after another, and heading towards the mysterious inner palace, a huge vibration suddenly came from the depths of the true spirit's secret realm, setting off monstrous air waves. A 10,000-meter-wide, 10-meter-tall, dark gold stone palace appeared in the deepest part of the true spirit's secret realm. It had ancient totem carvings on the walls, breaking through the solid ground. What is that? Many disciples of the 3 major sects in the depths of the true spirit's secret realm noticed the sudden appearance of this ancient stone palace. They all sped up and rushed over to check it out. Divine Palace! The divine palace that appeared thousands of years ago has appeared again. Standing on a 30-meter-tall ancient tree, Yu Shanxian looked at the giant divine palace in the distance. He was very excited as he recalled the introduction of the Divine Palace in the true spirit secret realm in the ancient books of the Skyfire sect. My opportunity has come. Everything in the Divine Palace is mine. If I obtain the inheritance of the Divine Palace, I will definitely become a peerless king. Yu Shanxian's eyes were burning with passion. He gave up on his grudge with Yi Chunfeng and increased his speed to the maximum, rushing over like he was flying. He was prepared to fight for the supreme inheritance of the Divine Palace at all costs, paving the way for himself to become a king. Pung! The 8th sword aura sculpture was shattered. Looking at the sword aura sculpture that had turned into dust, Yi Chunfeng closed his eyes and continued to comprehend. After the baptism of the 8 sword aura sculptures, Yi Chunfeng felt that his understanding of sword aura had reached a higher level, almost touching the fifth heaven of sword aura. Kill, kill! As he walked, Yi Chunfeng suddenly felt a huge pressure enveloping him. The deafening word, kill, pierced his ears. In the next moment, endless white light appeared in the dark space. It was so bright that it was dazzling. It was like a red sun in the darkness, making people unable to look at it directly. When the white light gradually dissipated, Yi Chunfeng saw a 5-meter-tall, stalwart sculpture holding a pair of swords not far in front of him. A terrifying pressure filled the world. The momentum was so strong that Yi Chunfeng felt suffocated. What a powerful double-sword sculpture! The sword aura contained in this double-sword sculpture is probably more powerful than the previous 8 sculptures combined. Feeling the terror of the double-sword sculpture, Yi Chunfeng was highly focused. He constantly condensed his sword aura and slowly approached it. Suddenly, Yi Chunfeng's pupils contracted into the most dangerous pinhole shape. 2 intersecting sword lights tore through the space and slashed over at a speed faster than light. Fourth heaven of sword aura, break! Yi Chunfeng roared. The fourth heaven of sword aura gushed out from his body. The terrifying sharpness was unparalleled and shocked everyone. He slashed at the intersection of the double-sword sculpture and broke the attack of the double-sword sculpture. Kill, kill, kill! After the first slash, there was an ear-piercing killing sound from the double-sword sculpture. Sword lights that were filled with the concept of destruction were like raging waves as they slashed at Yi Chunfeng. Facing the tide-like attacks from the double-sword sculpture, Yi Chunfeng didn't take out the coiling dragon broadsword or use any soul skills. He only released the fourth heaven of sword aura to resist. While resisting, he controlled the God-Eater brain to comprehend. Tisk tisk. Facing the frenzied attacks from the double-sword sculpture, Yi Chunfeng's body was covered with sword wounds. Large amounts of blood flowed out and dyed his clothes red. However, Yi Chunfeng didn't care about his physical injuries. It was as if he wasn't the one who was injured. He was only resisting and comprehending. It was unknown how many moves they exchanged. Yi Chunfeng's attacks were getting fiercer and fiercer, and he had the absolute advantage. Just as the double-sword sculpture's sword aura was about to be exhausted, the double-sword sculpture suddenly shattered. The sword aura in its body instantly condensed into a torrential sword of light. Following this, a radiance lit up. The sword that was filled with the final sword aura of the double-sword sculpture slashed across the space. It was like a crescent moon as it slashed towards Yi Chunfeng. Seeing the crescent moon's sword light descending from the sky, a boundless sword aura gushed out from Yi Chunfeng's body. It pierced through the sky and the sword aura was like a mountain and river. It was endless and boundless. Fifth heaven of sword aura. At the final moment, Yi Chunfeng finally comprehended the fifth heaven of sword aura. He burst out with the strongest sword aura and slashed at the crescent moon sword light. In a flash, the crescent moon sword light was shattered by Yi Chunfeng's fifth heaven of sword aura. The powerful sword aura slashed into the distance and didn't dissipate for a long time. Chapter 135. This is the inner hall? Yi Chunfeng looked at the majestic and grand hall in front of him. There were thousands of stone pillars with coiling dragons. The hall was paved with white jade bricks and inlaid with egg-sized luminous pearls, and he felt a sense of grandeur. Especially the coiling dragons carved on the stone pillars. They seemed to be coiling and rising, as if they were soaring through the clouds. It gave Yi Chunfeng a huge visual impact. It made him feel as if he was in a dragon's domain, surrounded by dragons. Balls of light. There are 3 balls of light floating over there. Just as Yi Chunfeng released his powerful soul power to search this huge stone hall, he discovered 3 balls of light floating in the air at the entrance of the stone hall. After approaching, Yi Chunfeng discovered that sealed within the 3 balls of light was a jade-green jade sword, a black saber, and a huge axe carved with dark patterns. Although these 3 treasures were sealed by the balls of light and Yi Chunfeng could not accurately sense their ranks, Yi Chunfeng could still feel that they were extraordinary at first glance. Especially the jade-green jade sword. Yi Chunfeng liked it very much. If he could obtain this jade sword, it would be just right to replace the damaged coiling dragon heavy sword. Sword force 5 layered heavens, wind shadow slash. Yi Chunfeng roared. His body swept through the air like a sharp sword. A soaring sword force gushed out from his body and fused into the coiling dragon heavy sword in his hand. It interweaved into a half-moon sword shadow and ruthlessly slashed at the white ball of light. Buzz buzz, the white ball of light was attacked by Yi Chunfeng's full-strength sword. Cracks immediately appeared on the surface of the ball of light. A large amount of white light shot out, and it was so dazzling that people could not open their eyes. 130,000 gene of strength, profound frost spirit water, break for me. Yi Chunfeng saw the cracks on the surface of the ball of light. He continuously increased his physical strength and controlled the power of the profound frost spirit water to surge into the coiling dragon heavy sword. It intersected with the sword force 5 layered heavens and continuously attacked the white ball of light. Under Yi Chunfeng's frenzied attacks with the coiling dragon heavy sword, the restriction on the surface of the white ball of light grew weaker and weaker. Finally, the restriction on the ball of light was broken, and the dark green jade sword sealed within the ball of light fell to the ground. Mid-grade Earth Tier. After catching the jade sword, the god-devouring brain immediately identified the grade of the jade sword. With this jade sword, Yi Chunfeng's attack power had at least doubled. Rumble. When Yi Chunfeng obtained the green jade sword, a loud explosion suddenly came from the entrance of the stone hall. A clear crack appeared on the restriction on the door. In the next moment, a blurry figure passed through the crack in the restriction and appeared in the stone hall. Yi Cursin. Seeing the first person to enter the stone hall, Yi Chunfeng was slightly surprised. It seems that this Yi Cursin is also someone with great luck. I wonder what his trump card is. While Yi Chunfeng was surprised, Yi Cursin also revealed a look of disbelief. He racked his brains and couldn't figure out how Yi Chunfeng had broken the stone hall's restriction and sneaked in without anyone noticing. Yi Chunfeng, I realize that I have underestimated you. You are indeed a little different. However, everything in this stone hall is mine. I will kill anyone who dares to touch it. Yi Cursin glanced at the 2 balls of light floating not far away and discovered the 2 earthly treasures sealed within them. His eyes emitted a thick killing intent as he spoke in a sinister tone. If you want the treasures in this stone hall, then show me your true abilities. Yi Chunfeng held the jasper sword in his hand. His aura suddenly erupted like a volcano. His entire body was like an unsheathed sword, incomparably sharp. 10,000 kill technique. Feeling Yi Chunfeng's fierce aura, Yi Cursin's pupils shrank. His spirit beast, the saber-toothed tiger, emerged from his body and turned into a soul armor to protect his body. In the next moment, the killing intent in Yi Cursin's body was released without reservation. In an instant 2 crescent-shaped killing intent halos condensed on his back. As the killing intent halos condensed, Yi Cursin's strength rose steadily until he reached the limit of a grade 6 Earth tier beast general. He was only a step away from the heavenly beast immortal realm. What kind of cultivation technique is this? Seeing the killing intent halos condensed behind Yi Cursin and feeling his soaring strength, Yi Chunfeng vaguely guessed that Yi Cursin had slaughtered more than 5,000 people to cultivate this evil cultivation technique. Yi Chunfeng, it's your honor to die under the 10,000 kill technique. Go to hell. Yi Cursin, whose strength had soared and whose killing intent soared, roared. A spirit sword that shone with silver light like a long snake flew out of his Qianquan bag. It drew a sword ray filled with killing intent and shot towards Yi Chunfeng's chest. Sword art of annihilation, flowing cloud pierce. Yi Chunfeng's eyes suddenly sharpened. He stabbed with the jasper sword in his hand. The dark green sword ray was like a spinning top as it hit the killing intent sword ray. Boom! The two sword rays collided, stirring up a substantial shockwave that spread out in all directions. The momentum was terrifying. The moment the two sword rays collided, Yi Kursen rushed towards Yi Chunfeng like a gust of wind. His speed was close to the speed of light, making it difficult for others to catch sight of him. In the blink of an eye, he appeared 3 meters in front of Yi Chunfeng. The silver sword in his hand stabbed out 9 times. Each sword was fatal, stabbing towards the 9 major acupoints on Yi Chunfeng's body. Once Yi Chunfeng was hit by any one of these 9 swords, he would be severely injured and his combat strength would be greatly reduced. The 9 sharp swords pierced through Yi Chunfeng's body. However, Yi Chunfeng did not show any pain on his face. His body also slowly dissipated along with the 9 sword. Not good, my speed is like an afterimage. Yi Kursen frowned and suddenly felt that something was wrong. Your attack speed is too slow. At this moment Yi Chunfeng's cold voice entered his ears. The jasper sword intertwined with a glaring sword ray and stabbed towards his back like a hot knife through butter. Killing sword. At this critical moment, Yi Kursen reacted instinctively. The power of 2 killing auras surged into the sword in his hand. At an unbelievable angle, the sword ray broke through the sword ray and stabbed the tip of the jasper sword. The sharp killing aura forcefully blocked the sword aura that surged out from the jasper sword. Streaks of dense energy surged in the air. Sword aura 3rd heaven break. The sure kill attack was blocked by Yi Chunfeng. Immediately, an astonishing sword aura surged out from Yi Chunfeng's body and merged with the jasper sword with a force of 130,000 jin, increasing the strength of the attack. Crack! The silver sword in Yi Kursen's hand could not block the sharp attack of the jasper sword. Cracks appeared on the surface of the sword. The powerful force surged into his arm through the sword, causing his skin and flesh to split open and blood to flow out. Yi Kursen, is this your trump card? It's only SOSO. Yi Chunfeng looked at the pale-faced Yi Kursen who kept retreating. He revealed an arrogant smile and spoke with disdain. Yi Chunfeng, don't be too proud. The final victory will belong to me. 10,000 killing art, boiling killing aura. Yi Kursen took a deep breath and burned the 2 halos of killing intent that he had condensed at all costs. Instantly, his attack power reached an unimaginable level, and his surging killing intent made people shudder. Kill. Yi Chunfeng and Yi Kursen moved at the same time. They engaged in an intense battle. Sword lights intertwined and sword auras spread out in all directions. Chapter 136. Yi Chunfeng. After tearing open the stone hall's restrictions and entering, Yu Shanxian and Jian Qingtian, the sword hall's genius, saw the intense battle between Yi Chunfeng and Yi Kursen. They looked as if they had seen a ghost. In the next moment, a scene that stunned Yu Shanxian and Jian Qingtian appeared. Instant kill sword. Yi Chunfeng saw Yu Shanxian and Yi Chunfeng appear from the corner of his eye. He no longer hid his strength. His entire body merged with the jasper sword in his hand. A thin green sword light pierced towards Yi Kursen's throat. Killing sword. Feeling the terror of Yi Chunfeng's sword, Yi Kursen poured all his boiling killing intent into the cracked longsword and resisted with all his might. However, the instant kill sword was too fast, and the explosive power was too terrifying. It instantly hit his throat. Bang! The amulet that Yi Kursen had refined into his body shattered, and a halo of energy instantly enveloped Yi Kursen's body. Sword aura level 5 break. Seeing that Yi Kursen had used the amulet's power to escape, Yi Chunfeng raised his attack power to the peak. He increased the jasper sword's attack power to the maximum, and the sword pierced through the halo of energy. It left a bloody hole in Yi Kursen's throat. Bang! Yi Kursen's head could not withstand the jasper sword's light and directly exploded. Blood and flesh splattered all over the ground, and his corpse fell limply into a pool of blood. How is this possible? How can his attack power penetrate the amulet's defense? Yu Shanxian and Jian Qingtian widened their eyes and looked at Yi Chunfeng as if he was a monster. They could not believe what they were seeing. After all, the amulets refined by the three major sects were difficult for even ordinary heavenly beast immortals to break. However, Yi Chunfeng, who was a grade 4 Earth Beast General, had done it. His sword is strange. If I'm not wrong, the sword in his hand should be a mid-grade Earth artifact. As a genius of the Sword Hall, Jian Qingtian was very sensitive to swords and guessed the grade of the Jasper sword. Damn it, how did that bastard sneak in? Yu Shanxian said angrily. After witnessing the power of Yi Chunfeng's sword, Yu Shanxian sensed a strong sense of danger. Shanxian, let's not deal with that brat first. Let's snatch the treasures in the two balls of light first. That way we can deal with him, Jian Qingtian said through voice transmission, his eyes gleaming. All right. Yu Shanxian nodded and looked at the two white balls of light floating not far away. Let's get that black saber first. Jian Qingtian sent a telepathic message and attacked together with Yu Shanxian. They leaped into the air, each holding their own weapon. Their attacks interweaved with each other and bombarded the white ball of light that sealed the black saber, causing the ball of light to shake violently. Cloud-shattering palm. Seeing what the two of them were doing, Yi Chunfeng immediately tried to stop them. The instant he used form-shifting phantom, he sent a palm towards the two of them. The terrifying cloud-collapsing palm drew a dazzling light in the air, fiercely bombarding the two people, forcibly interrupting their attacks. You're courting death. Yu Shanxian suddenly took a deep breath. The purple cloud spear in his hand interweaved with a spinning spear light, stirring the air and piercing towards Yi Chunfeng. Wind Shadow Slash. Yi Chunfeng stepped on the ground with one foot and charged straight into the air. A crescent-shaped sword light cut through the air, breaking Yu Shanxian's spear light and fiercely slashing towards the two of them. The two of them fell to the ground from the air, the blood in their bodies churning violently. Yi Chunfeng, how dare you attack us? Yu Shanxian took a deep breath and suppressed the surging blood in his body. He angrily roared, Do you know that the disciples of the martial house are forbidden from attacking the disciples of the heavenly fire sect? If they are caught, their cultivation will be crippled. Cripple my cultivation. Yi Chunfeng coldly snorted and said, Fine, I will stand here. Let's see which one of you has the ability to cripple my cultivation. Yi Chunfeng, I admit that your attack is very powerful, but you have to know that once the matter of you killing Yi Curson is exposed, you will face the wrath of Thunderbird Mountain and the Thunder Mountain Martial House. And if you are willing to give those two treasures to us, we can promise to help you deal with the people of Thunderbird Mountain, Jian Qingtian slowly said. Do you think I will believe your nonsense? Yi Chunfeng coldly smiled and said, If you want those two treasures, then use your life to exchange for them. Yi Chunfeng, do you really want to become enemies with my Heavenly Fire Sect? Don't you want to enter the Heavenly Fire Sect in the future? Going against us has no benefits for you. Jian Qingtian looked at Yi Chunfeng with a gloomy expression. If it wasn't for Yi Chunfeng's terrifying attack, he would have already taken action. I said, if you want those two treasures, then use your life to exchange for them. If you think you have the life to take those two treasures, then make your move. Yi Chunfeng was unmoved. He held his sword with one hand and pointed it at the two of them as he coldly said, Qingtian, the people outside are about to break in. I don't believe that we can't kill them if we work together. Yu Shanxian coldly looked at Yi Chunfeng and transmitted his voice. Good, since you don't know what's good for you, then don't blame us for not giving you a chance. Jian Qingtian nodded heavily. A fierce tiger appeared on his body and roared at Yi Chunfeng. Yi Chunfeng, when you fall into my hands, I will let you taste all the pain in the world and let you slowly die in despair. Yu Shanxian never dreamed that Yi Chunfeng, who he once regarded as an ant, would grow so fast that he had no choice but to work with Jian Qingtian to deal with him. Why, do you think you can defeat me by working together? Feeling the aura emitted by the two of them, Yi Chunfeng said disdainfully, "To be honest, I'm afraid your strength is not as good as Yi Kursen's." Purple Cloud Spear Art. Being ignored by Yi Chunfeng completely angered the arrogant Yu Shanxian. He roared and merged with the power of his spiritual beast, the iron frame rhinoceros. He held the high-grade spiritual artifact, the Purple Cloud Spear, and stabbed over. "Yu Shanxian, your growth is too slow." Seeing Yu Shanxian's spear, Yi Chunfeng didn't retreat or dodge. He held the Jasper Sword and met the attack with a sharp sword aura. Clang! The Purple Cloud Spear and the Jasper Sword collided and exploded. A large number of energy halos surged in the air like water ripples. Facing Yi Chunfeng's sword head-on, Yu Shanxian showed a look of disbelief. His hands, which were holding the Purple Cloud Spear, were bleeding profusely. He almost couldn't hold the Purple Cloud Spear. Yin-Yang Sword. When Yi Chunfeng injured Yu Shanxian, Jian Chengtian attacked. Two sword lights, one red and one black, crisscrossed and attacked Yi Chunfeng. Break! A light flashed under Yi Chunfeng's feet. He held the Jasper Sword and met the attack. The sharp sword aura crisscrossed at the tip of the Jasper Sword and stabbed out at extreme speed. This sword was not only fast but also erratic like the wind. Jian Qingtian couldn't predict the attack trajectory of this sword. Qi. Yi Chunfeng broke Jian Qingtian's yin and yang sword with one strike and pierced toward Jian Qingtian's chest with irresistible force. In a hurry, Jian Qingtian quickly placed the high-grade spiritual sword in front of his chest to block Yi Chunfeng's extreme sword. However, Yi Chunfeng's sword was full of three sword auras. Coupled with the attack power of the Jasper Sword itself, it pierced through Jian Qingtian's high-grade spiritual sword and hit him hard in the chest. He flew out like a kite with a broken string and fell hard to the ground. "Yu Shanxian, I have to say that you are too weak." Yi Chunfeng glanced at Yu Shanxian and Jian Qingtian, who were deeply shocked by his strength, and sneered coldly. Chapter 137. How is this possible? How can his attack be so strong? Seeing Yi Chunfeng break through the white ball of light that he and Jian Qingtian could not even break through, Yu Shanxian's face was extremely gloomy. He could not accept this fact. "Shanxian, this Yi Chunfeng's attack power has exceeded our expectations. Furthermore, we have already used up our trump card when we attacked the palace doors restriction earlier. The only thing we can do now is to borrow the hands of others. Only then will we have a chance to get rid of him and take everything he has." Jian Qingtian sent a sinister sound transmission. "Okay, then we will attack the restriction from the inside and let the people outside in." Yu Shanxian nodded and quickly rushed to the restriction with Jian Qingtian. Purple Cloud Spear Art. Yin-Yang Sword. Yu Shanxian and Jian Qingtian attacked at the same time. The spinning purple spear light and the sharp yin-yang sword continuously attacked the restriction. Just as Jian Qingtian had guessed, the restriction on the inside was much weaker than the outside. After being attacked by them, cracks immediately appeared on the surface of the restriction. "You are courting death." Seeing what Yu Shanxian and Jian Qingtian were doing, Yi Chunfeng's face instantly darkened. Because he was worried about their identities, and was afraid that the Heavenly Fire Sect would blame him, Yi Chunfeng had been merciful and did not take their lives. However, Yi Chunfeng did not expect them to be so ungrateful. They wanted to break the restriction on the palace door and let the people outside in to attack him. This made Yi Chunfeng want to kill the two of them. Just as Yi Chunfeng was about to attack and kill the two of them, a powerful force from the outside bombarded the restriction that was full of cracks. The restriction was forcibly broken, and a dozen figures rushed in at an extremely fast speed. "Yu Shanxian, hand over the treasures you have and I will spare your lives." Zhang Xingyue, the #1 Earth Beast General in Fengyan Valley, was dressed in a white robe. He was tall and straight, and his long black hair was casually draped over his shoulders. He held a dragon-headed broadsword and glared at Yu Shanxian and Jian Qingtian as he ordered loudly. Other than the earth weapon in the ball of light, he has taken all the other middle-grade earth weapons. He has also killed Yi Kursen. Yu Shanxian pointed at Yi Chunfeng and provoked loudly, "If you want the middle-grade earth weapon, go to him." Mid-grade earth tier. Mid-grade earth tools were extremely precious in the North Snow region. In the Heavenly Fire sect, only the 4 hall masters were qualified to possess a mid-grade earth tool. After learning that Yi Chunfeng had obtained a mid-grade earth tool from the Stone Hall, everyone looked at him with burning eyes. They were eager to try and snatch it. Especially the Thunder Mountain Martial House disciples who discovered Yi Kursen's quirk. The killing intent in their eyes was even thicker. They wished they could chop Yi Chunfeng into 1,000 pieces to avenge Yi Kursen. "Brat, hand over the earth tool, and I'll spare your life," Zhang Xingyue ordered domineeringly as she pointed her dragon head blade at Yi Chunfeng. The dragon head broadsword in his hand was also an earth tool. However, it was a low-rank earth tool. It was bestowed to him by the Storm Valley Master when he became the #1 Earth Beast General of the Storm Valley. "If you want an earthly artifact, then take it with your lives." Yi Chunfeng knew that a battle was unavoidable. He did not back down and spoke with high fighting spirit. "Good gut. I want to see if your strength is as big as your gut." Zhang Xingyue's expression instantly turned gloomy. When she fused with her spirit beast, a blood-red soul power soared into the sky. She was like a blood-red war god as she slashed at Yi Chunfeng with her dragon head broadsword. Seeing the dragon head broadsword slashing through the air, Yi Chunfeng did not dodge. He took a step forward and met the attack with his jasper sword. Clang! The 2 earthly artifacts collided. Yi Chunfeng's 130,000 gene of strength erupted. The terrifying attack instantly blocked Zhang Xingyue's all-out attack. A large amount of energy spread out in all directions, causing the air to tremble violently. After a head-on collision, both of them increased their soul power and raised their speed to the peak. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had exchanged dozens of blows. Afterimages of their speed fiercely repulsed each other. Their rapid speed was dazzling. Although Zhang Xingyue's cultivation level was far higher than Yi Chunfeng's, Yi Chunfeng relied on the mid-grade earthly artifact, the 130,000 gene of strength, and the terrifying sword aura to make up for the difference in cultivation level. He suppressed Zhang Xingyue's attack. Mountain and River Saber Technique. Zhang Xingyue's expression turned extremely ugly when his attack was suppressed. He roared, and the muscles on his right arm bulged. His veins popped out as he executed the strongest soul skill he knew. He slashed at Yi Chunfeng one after another, ferocious saber light after another. Every saber slash was like a surging river, causing mountains and rivers to collapse. Dozens of saber lights converged, and the waves were turbulent and endless. The terrifying power was enough to shatter one's courage. Instant kill sword. Enveloped by Zhang Xingyue's mountain and river saber technique, Yi Chunfeng's expression did not change. 4 sword auras burst forth, and his arm fused with the jasper sword. He thrust out a sword light that cut through the void. It was like a shooting star in the dark night sky, colliding with the turbulent saber light. Tisk! The sound of cloth being torn could be heard. The continuous mountain and river saber technique was torn apart by Yi Chunfeng's sword. The sword light was so fast that it could not be seen by the naked eye, and it pierced towards Zhang Xingyue's chest. Bang! A shattering sound could be heard. Zhang Xingyue's body was pierced by Yi Chunfeng's instant kill sword. The protective amulet that he had refined into his body was shattered, and he forcefully blocked Yi Chunfeng's fatal attack. Sword Aura 5 Heavens. After the instant kill sword was blocked, Yi Chunfeng's body immediately surged with 5 sword auras and fused with the jasper sword. He increased the jasper sword's attacking power to the greatest extent. He wanted to forcefully pierce through the protective amulet and kill Zhang Xingyue. Mountain and River Saber Technique, Gravity Mountain Saber. At the critical moment, Zhang Xingyue stimulated his body's potential. The moment the protective amulet shattered, he slashed out the ninth move of the mountain and river saber technique at Yi Chunfeng. The mountain-like sword light slashed towards Yi Chunfeng ruthlessly, blocking Yi Chunfeng's fatal attack. He retreated to the side of Stormy Valley in a sorry state. What? Zhang Xingyue lost? Witnessing the scene of Stormy Valley's leading figure, Zhang Xingyue, being defeated by Yi Chunfeng in just a few breaths, the disciples of Stormy Valley were all dumbfounded. Who else? After defeating Zhang Xingyue in the most domineering manner, Yi Chunfeng raised his sword with one hand and pointed at the people with ugly expressions as he said domineeringly. Fu Yue, who was in the crowd, looked at Yi Chunfeng, who was exuding a domineering aura that looked down on the world. Her deep eyes shone. Yi Chunfeng, are you challenging us? Yushan Xian, who had a gloomy expression, deliberately provoked. Yushan Xian, do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? Yi Chunfeng looked at Yushan Xian with a sharp gaze and said with a murderous intent. When he met Yi Chunfeng's murderous gaze, Yushan Xian felt like he was being stared at by a poisonous snake. All the hair on his body stood up. He pretended to be calm and said, Yi Chunfeng, if something happens to me, don't even think about living. Yushan Xian, I'll count to 3. If you don't get out of here, I'll definitely kill you. Yi Chunfeng looked at the timid Yushan Xian and warned him coldly. Yushan Xian, let's attack together. I don't believe that we can't kill him with our combined strength. Jian Qingtian and the other Heavenly Fire sect disciples stood beside Yushan Xian and said, Stormy Valley disciples, listen up. Follow me and kill this person. At this moment, Zhang Xingyue, who had stabilized her injuries, ordered loudly. Thunderbird Mountain disciples, listen up. Kill this person with all your might. The leader of Thunderbird Mountain, Yang Bingfeng, shouted loudly. In an instant, Yi Chunfeng became the target of public criticism. Other than Fu Yue, everyone wanted to kill him and seize his treasures. Chapter 138. Kill! Zhang Xingyue roared, and the muscles on her right arm swelled. She held a dragon-headed broadsword and led a group of Storm Valley disciples to attack Yi Chunfeng with murderous intent. Once Zhang Xingyue made her move, Yushan Xian, Yang Bingfeng, and the other Heavenly Fire sect and Thunderbird Mountain disciples attacked Yi Chunfeng together. They wanted to kill him as soon as possible and snatch his treasures. Junior brother Yi, let me help you. Seeing that Yi Chunfeng was in danger, Fu Yue, who was like a dark elf, bit her moist lips. She used the second layer of her blade force and attacked the back of the crowd with the Blood Moon blade. Senior sister Fu. Seeing that Fu Yue still chose to help him in such a dangerous situation, Yi Chunfeng was very touched. However, almost all the disciples of the 3 major sects were as strong as her. She couldn't change the situation by herself. She was intercepted by a Thunderbird Mountain disciple and fought fiercely. Instant kill sword. Facing the attacks of Zhang Xingyue and more than 10 people, Yi Chunfeng didn't dodge. He pushed his sword force to the limit and turned into a rapid sword shadow to meet the attacks. Although Yi Chunfeng's attack power was terrifying, he still felt a lot of pressure when facing more than 10 genius disciples who were not much weaker than him. After a round of fierce attacks, Yi Chunfeng was forced to retreat. The blood in his body churned violently, and a stream of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Yi Chunfeng, you will definitely die today. Yushan Xian, who was in the crowd, revealed a sinister smile. He knew that today was the best opportunity to kill Yi Chunfeng. If he missed it, he would be in a very dangerous situation. Mountain River Saber Technique. Thunder shaking the world. After jointly repelling Yi Chunfeng, Zhang Xingyue, Yang Bingfeng, and the others chased after him. The surging attacks enveloped Yi Chunfeng, leaving him nowhere to hide. Junior brother Yi. When Fu Yue saw that Yi Chunfeng was in danger, her heart started to panic. However, with her strength, there was no way she could save Yi Chunfeng. She could only watch as he was swallowed up by the sky full of soul skills. Just as Yi Chunfeng was about to be struck by the soul skills unleashed by Zhang Xingyue and the others, a terrifying force suddenly erupted from Yi Chunfeng's body. Life Spirit Technique, burning 50 years of lifespan. At the critical moment, Yi Chunfeng used his greatest trump card. He used the Life Soul spell to burn 50 years of his lifespan to forcefully increase his strength. The lifespan of a Grade 4 earthly beast general was 310 years. Yi Chunfeng had burned away a sixth of his lifespan. It could be said that he was staking everything on this gamble. Boom! The 50 years of lifespan turned into life force and surged into Yi Chunfeng's body. An astonishing power erupted and instantly increased his cultivation by 2 small realms, allowing him to possess the strength of a Grade 6 earthly beast general for a short period of time. In the next moment, Yi Chunfeng, whose soul power had skyrocketed, unleashed his sword force level 5. He raised his physical strength to the peak and channeled the power of the mystic frost spirit water into his jasper sword to unleash instant kill. TSK. A shocking sword light that was infused with sword force and frost cut through everyone's attack. Under the horrified gazes of Zhang Xingyue, Yu Shanxian, and the others, the sword pierced towards them. PFFF. A Thunderbird Mountain disciple couldn't dodge in time and was pierced by Yi Chunfeng's instant kill. His life-saving protective light was pierced through like tofu. His entire body was split into 2 and he died. Senior Sister Fu, take this. After using instant kill to kill one person, Yi Chunfeng immediately took out a mid-grade earth-ranked black battle blade from his Qiankuan bag and threw it to Fu Yue. After catching the black battle blade, Fu Yue's attack power increased greatly. Her ferocious attacks instantly suppressed the Thunderbird Mountain disciple, forcing him to retreat. Flowing Cloud Pierce, Wind Shadow Slash. After throwing the black battle blade to Fu Yue, Yi Chunfeng continued to attack. He unleashed the attack power of the Annihilation Sword Art to the extreme and killed ferociously amidst the sword light. His shocking attacks made Zhang Xingyue and the others tremble in fear. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. Yi Chunfeng used Wind Shadow Slash to break through the combined attack of Zhang Xingyue and the other 5 Storm Valley disciples. His body flashed and strangely turned into a white sword light. In the next moment, 2 pillars of blood spurted into the sky like a fountain. 2 Storm Valley disciples' heads were chopped off by Yi Chunfeng's instant kill. The protective talismans on their bodies didn't have any effect and were pierced through by the sharp sword force level 5. Black Frost Spirit Water, Freeze. 2 of their companions were killed by Yi Chunfeng in an instant. Zhang Xingyue and the other 2 were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They hurriedly dodged, but the moment they dodged, a bone-chilling cold aura emitted from Yi Chunfeng's body and froze their bodies. Caught off guard, the 2 Storm Valley disciples were frozen by the cold aura released by the Black Frost Spirit Water. They turned into ice sculptures and were frozen on the spot. Although Zhang Xingyue relied on his amazing attack power to shatter the ice with one slash and escape, he was also frightened and had no intention to fight. Kacha Kacha! Yi Chunfeng's silhouette flickered, and with an irresistible force, his sword pierced through the bodies of the 2 Storm Valley's disciples, ending their lives. In just a few breaths, 4 of the 5 Storm Valley disciples were killed by Yi Chunfeng in an instant, leaving only the pale-faced Zhang Xingyue. Yi Chunfeng's tyrannical strength made Yu Shanxian and the others tremble in fear. This Yi Chunfeng is too strong. Let's go. After witnessing Yi Chunfeng's horrifying strength, Jian Qingtian and the others were really scared. They made a prompt decision to escape and leave the stone hall that was filled with the thick smell of blood. Yu Shanxian, where are you going? Yi Chunfeng said coldly. A light flashed under his feet, and he instantly turned into 4 afterimages, blocking Yu Shanxian, who had yet to recover from his shock. Yi Chunfeng, I advise you not to mess around. If you dare to hurt me, Elder Yu and my grandfather will not let you go. Feeling the intense killing intent from Yi Chunfeng, Yu Shanxian's face turned pale. He had no choice but to use Son of the Netherworld and his grandfather to intimidate Yi Chunfeng. Why are you scared? But it's too late. You will definitely die today. Yi Chunfeng was determined to kill Yu Shanxian, who had schemed against him time and time again. The jasper sword in his hand interweaved into streaks of sharp sword light, cutting through the air and piercing towards Yu Shanxian's body. Purple Cloud Soul Petrifying Spear. Facing Yi Chunfeng's fatal attack, Yu Shanxian immediately spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. He activated his potential and stabbed out with the soul petrifying spear, trying to force Yi Chunfeng back and take the opportunity to escape. Flowing Cloud Pierce. Yi Chunfeng's jasper sword spun in a circle. The flowing cloud sword light, which was filled with 5 sword forces, broke through the soul petrifying spear and pierced the tip of the purple cloud spear, knocking it out of Yu Shanxian's hand. Yi Chunfeng, don't kill me. As long as you are willing to let me go, I am willing to agree to any of your conditions. After losing his weapon, Yu Shanxian was scared out of his wits. His body seemed to have gone crazy as he trembled uncontrollably. He did not care about his dignity and begged Yi Chunfeng to let him go. When Jian Qingtian and the others saw that Yu Shanxian was in danger, not only did they not save him, but they took the opportunity to escape from the stone hall. Yi Chunfeng was not moved by Yu Shanxian's begging. The jasper sword in his hand turned into a stream of light and pierced through Yu Shanxian's head. Bang! Yu Shanxian's head exploded. His corpse, which was spurting blood, fell into a pool of blood. After witnessing Yi Chunfeng kill Yu Shanxian, Zhang Xingyue, Yang Bingfeng, and the others were scared out of their wit. They quickly fled from the stone hall. Chapter 139. Senior Sister Fu, thank you. Thank you for helping me deal with them. As thanks, I'll give you this mid-grade earth weapon saber. After everyone escaped, Yi Chunfeng let out a long sigh of relief. He looked at Fu Yue, who was dressed in black, and said softly, Junior brother Yi, have you thought about the consequences of killing Yu Shanxian and the rest? If the people outside know that you killed them, they will not let you go. Fu Yue did not stand on ceremony with Yi Chunfeng and accepted the black saber. However, her delicate face showed a trace of worry as she said softly, Of course, I know the consequences of killing them. But Senior Sister Fu, have you thought about it? Even if I let Yu Shanxian go with his character, he will not let it go. So, whether I kill them or not, the result will be the same. Yi Chunfeng said slowly. Sigh, then how are you going to deal with the crisis outside? The elders of the 3 sects are all high-level heavenly beast immortals. Fu Yue sighed softly. After seeing Yi Chunfeng's talent, she did not want Yi Chunfeng to die so early. Don't worry, Senior Sister. I'm tough. I won't die so early. Yi Chunfeng said with a faint smile. Under the threat of the experts of the 3 sects, he was ready to risk everything and accept the inner hall assessment as a final gamble. Buzz! A piercing sword sound rang out. Yi Chunfeng swung his sword. The sharp sword light broke through the white light and obtained the mid-grade earth weapon giant axe. What's wrong? The moment the 3rd ball of light disappeared, the spacious stone hall suddenly surged with wind and clouds. Endless power gathered in the center of the stone hall, converging into a black vortex. Could that black vortex be the passage to the inner hall? Looking at the black vortex not far away, Yi Chunfeng and Fu Yue immediately rushed over. They stood under the black vortex and felt a majestic power surging out of the vortex. Junior brother Yi, be careful. Fu Yue reminded softly. Her graceful body flew into the air like a saber. She blended with the 2nd heaven of saber aura and rushed toward the black vortex. Rumble! The moment Fu Yue came into contact with the black vortex, an endless amount of energy gushed out of the vortex. It was like a reverse tide, slamming heavily into Fu Yue's body. It shattered the 2nd heaven of sword force and blasted her to the ground from midair. Senior Fu. Looking at Fu Yue, who was spitting out blood and falling from midair, Yi Chunfeng lightly tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and turned into an afterimage. Before she hit the ground, he caught her hot body. "Senior Fu, are you all right?" Yi Chunfeng looked at Fu Yue, whose face was pale and whose mouth was bleeding, and asked with concern. "I'm fine." Fu Yue struggled out of Yi Chunfeng's embrace and shook her head. "Senior Fu, I'll give you this middle-rank earth weapon giant axe. When you leave the true spirit secret realm, give this giant axe to Hall Master Swordsmanship. Then, put all the blame on me. This way you'll be fine." Yi Chunfeng knew that there was a slim chance of survival in the Inner Palace assessment. He did not want Fu Yue to be implicated by him. So, he took out the precious giant axe from his heaven-earth bag and gave it to Fu Yue. Junior brother Yi Yu, seeing Yi Chunfeng's determined eyes, Fu Yue had a premonition. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, Yi Chunfeng's body shot into the sky. He easily passed through the black vortex and disappeared from the spacious stone palace. After about half an incense's time, the black light in front of Yi Chunfeng's eyes disappeared. He found himself in an ancient divine palace. The ceiling of the palace was like a starry sky, dotted with stars. The walls of the palace were engraved with a large number of ancient totems. In the middle of the palace there was a white staircase. On the staircase there were a few white skeletons that had been dead for God knows how long. On the side of the staircase, there were 108 extremely sharp, 3-meter-tall stone swords that pierced through the sky. At the top of the staircase, there was a human statue wearing golden armor and black boot. It was holding a sword with one hand and had its eyes closed. Although the statue did not reveal any aura, Yi Chunfeng could feel his soul trembling when he first saw it. It was as if it was a part of the world. Just by standing there, it gave people a sense of majesty. "You're here." Just as Yi Chunfeng was sizing up the golden-armored statue from afar, an ancient, deep voice suddenly rang out. The golden-armored statue seemed to have a life of its own as it suddenly opened its eyes. A powerful force was awakened within the statue. "Senior, are you the guardian of the Inner Palace assessment?" Yi Chunfeng bowed to the golden statue and asked respectfully. "Yes, I am the guardian of the Inner Palace. Junior, you have passed the Sword Steel assessment and are qualified to take the Inner Palace assessment. Are you ready?" The eyes of the golden-armored statue flickered with a piercing light. It looked down at Yi Chunfeng and asked in a deep voice. "This junior is already prepared." Yi Chunfeng nodded his head and said with a firm tone. "Good. Before you take the Inner Palace assessment, you must first pass through the 100 Sword steps and take the assessment. If you are unable to pass through the steps and see my real body, then you will have the same fate as them. You will die here forever. Also, you only have 2 hours to pass through the 100 Sword step. Once the time is up, you will fail the assessment and die," the golden statue said without a trace of emotion. "Junior, can I start now?" Yi Chunfeng already had no way out. If he couldn't pass the Inner Palace exam and obtain the inheritance of the true spirit realm, then when he left the true spirit realm, he would definitely be surrounded and killed by the experts of the 3 sections. Therefore, the Inner Palace exam was his only chance. "Sure. Good luck." After that, the golden statue's sharp eyes lost their luster and stopped moving. Huff! Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and silently channeled the 6 Meridian God Gang. He raised his physical strength to the peak and stepped onto the first step of the White Jade Step. In the next moment, he felt the endless sword aura from the 108 stone swords, covering the entire space. The terrifying sword aura was like 10,000 swords piercing through his heart and piercing into his body, making him feel as if his liver and gallbladder were being torn apart. However, after 3 breaths, Yi Chunfeng, who was pale without a trace of blood, took the second step against the terrifying sword aura and stepped onto the second step. Not bad, not bad. This young man indeed has an unyielding heart. In 3 breaths, he was able to dispel the fear of 10,000 swords piercing through his heart. He is much stronger than the previous few. Just as Yi Chunfeng was ascending the stairway of 100 swords, a man who looked somewhat similar to the golden-armored statue appeared from the statue and floated in midair. His eyes, which were as deep as the sea, revealed traces of anticipation. Beside him, there was a blood-red light spirit floating. This blood-red light spirit was the tablet spirit that had sent Yi Chunfeng into the inner palace. Lord True Spirit, do you think he has a chance to pass the inner palace assessment and become the inheritor of the spirit clan? The tablet spirit asked respectfully. If you want to pass the inner palace's assessment, it's not enough to have a firm and unyielding heart. He also needs to possess extraordinary talent, absolute strength, shocking comprehension, and great luck. Otherwise, he won't be able to pass the inner palace's assessment and become the successor of our spirit tribe. Let's wait until he passes the 100 sword steps, the true spirit said slowly. Chapter 140. Sword Form 5-Layered Heavens Break. After suddenly being attacked by the shocking sword beam, Yi Chunfeng's body immediately surged with 5 layered sword forms, forming a shocking light sword that slashed forward. When the two sword forms clashed, they immediately set off a torrential air wave that caused the surrounding air to violently tumble. After Yi Chunfeng released 5 layered sword forms, the condensed light sword resisted for 2 breaths before it was shattered by the sword beam that surged out from the stone sword. A lightning-like sword beam shot through Yi Chunfeng's body. PFFF. A bloody hole appeared in Yi Chunfeng's chest as large amounts of blood flowed out uncontrollably, dyeing his clothes red. As expected, the sword beam condensed from the stairway of 100 swords is not something I can resist. With his chest pierced, Yi Chunfeng quickly circulated the soul-devouring art to stabilize his injuries and repair them. Fortunately, the 5 layered sword forms had weakened most of the stone sword's sword beam's power. He had also cultivated the 6 meridian divine shield to the muscle refinement realm, so his body's recovery ability was very strong. In just 10 breaths, he stabilized his injuries and stepped onto the 3rd step. What powerful recovery ability! It seems like he has a chance of passing the stairway of 100 swords. When the true spirit saw Yi Chunfeng's chest recovering at an astonishing speed, its eyes that were as deep as the sea shot out beams of light. 1. After stepping onto the 3rd step, Yi Chunfeng was attacked by the terrifying sword beam again. The light sword formed by the 5 layered sword forms was shattered, and his chest was pierced through once again. Although his body was heavily injured again, Yi Chunfeng did not stop. He endured the immense pain coming from his chest and stepped onto the 4th step with a resolute gaze. His body was constantly attacked by the stone sword's sword forms, and Yi Chunfeng's injuries were getting more and more serious. The blood that flowed out from his body had already dyed his clothes red. However, Yi Chunfeng did not stop. He continued to release the 5 layered sword forms to weaken the stone sword's attack. He endured the pain of the sword beam piercing through his body and climbed up the 8th step before finally stopping. He silently closed his eyes and circulated the soul-devouring art to quickly heal his injuries. At the same time, he controlled the god-devouring brain to deduce the sword force of the stone sword and deepen his understanding of the sword force. Yi Chunfeng had a feeling that if his understanding of sword force increased to the next level and reached the 6th level of sword force, he would be able to withstand the stone sword's sword force attack and pass through the staircase of 100 swords to reach the golden-armored statue. Time ticked by. With the God-Eater brain's analysis, Yi Chunfeng's comprehension of the sword force grew deeper and deeper. Nearly an hour had passed. What's wrong with him? Why isn't he moving? Did he forget that there's a time limit to the 100 sword steps? Once the time is up, he will be killed by the 100 sword step. The monument spirit looked at the motionless Yi Chunfeng and said somewhat anxiously, "He seems to be comprehending the sword force." The true spirit's eyes flickered as it said, However, to raise his sword force to the 6th level in such a short period of time is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. When more than half an hour had passed, Yi Chunfeng, who was meditating, finally woke up from his epiphany. 2 sharp sword beams shot out from his opened eyes. I wonder how many steps I can climb in one go with my current comprehension of sword force. Yi Chunfeng knew that he didn't have much time left. He pushed his sword force to the limit and stepped onto the 9th step. Boom! The 2 sword forces collided as cracks appeared. The 2 sword forces clashed for 5 seconds before shattering at the same time, turning into a large number of sword beam fragments. Among them, a very small number of sword light shards entered Yi Chunfeng's body, injuring him. However, compared to the injuries caused by the sword beam, the injuries caused by the sword beam fragments were almost negligible. Yi Chunfeng carried the powerful sword force of the 5th level and stepped onto the 10th step. Yes, sword force of the 5th level has reached the phenomenal success stage. Upon sensing Yi Chunfeng's sword force of the 5th level, the true spirit's calm face finally revealed a strange expression. It realized that Yi Chunfeng was far more terrifying than it had imagined. 11th step, 12th step, 13th step. Under the protection of the 5th level of the phenomenal success stage, the pressure on Yi Chunfeng lessened. He quickly climbed the white jade stairs and soon, the injured him reached the 48th step. At that moment, 3/4 of the time had passed. Yi Chunfeng only had half an hour left. However, Yi Chunfeng stopped at that moment and continued closing his eyes. As he circulated the soul-devouring art to heal his injuries, he controlled the god-devouring brain to deduce the stone sword's sword force. He has another epiphany. He really can keep his composure. The monument spirit said with a wry smile when it saw Yi Chunfeng enter the ethereal state again. This young man is not simple. Perhaps he really has a chance of obtaining the inheritance of our spirit tribe, the true spirit said slowly. There was a hint of anticipation in its voice. After another 20 minutes, just as the 2 hours were about to end, a powerful sword force suddenly surged out of Yi Chunfeng's body. It rushed into the void formed by the sword force, stirring up ripples in the void. Sword force of the 6th level. I have finally comprehended the 6th level of sword force. Feeling the transformation of the sword force in his body, Yi Chunfeng revealed a faint smile. A surge of fighting spirit erupted from his body. Sword force of the 6th level. It seems like the 100 sword stairs is no longer a problem for him, the true spirit said calmly as it looked at Yi Chunfeng's surging sword force. When he broke the sword steel yesterday, he had only comprehended the 4th heaven of sword force. In just one day, he raised his sword force to the 6th heaven. This kind of talent is rare even in the original spirit tribe, the stone steel spirit praised. Not bad. This young man's talent is indeed terrifying. However, to obtain the inheritance of our spirit tribe, he still needs great luck. However, from his performance just now, he should have a 10% chance of obtaining the inheritance of our spirit tribe. The true spirit nodded and said, "Sword force of the 6th level break." After stepping onto the 49th step, Yi Chunfeng immediately controlled the height of the 6th level of sword force. He broke the stone sword's sword force with one strike and his body did not suffer any damage. The 50th step, the 51st step, the 52nd step, under the attack of sword force 6-layered heavens, the 100-sword stair did not pose any threat to Yi Chunfeng at all. Yi Chunfeng climbed the stairs at an extremely fast speed. In merely 5 minutes, he had climbed to the 99th step. Phew, I've finally reached the last step. Yi Chunfeng looked at the 100-sword stairs that surrounded the 9 stone swords. He did not blindly step onto it. Instead, he stood on the 99th step and circulated the soul-devouring art to recover his exhausted soul power. He was prepared to climb the 100-sword stairs in his best condition to withstand the final attack of the 100-sword stairs. About 5 minutes later, Yi Chunfeng, who had adjusted himself to his best condition, stepped onto the 100-sword stairs. Buzz, 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 9 ear-piercing sword sounds rang out. 9 sharp sword beams broke through the 9 stone swords at the same time. It was like a rain of swords. They drew out a blinding white light and shot towards Yi Chunfeng. Sword force of the 6th level break. Yi Chunfeng's pupils shrank. The terrifying 6th level of sword force gushed out from his body. It carried a shocking destructive power as it slashed at the 9 sword beams. Rumble! A series of deafening explosions rang out. The terrifying sword force clashed fiercely on the 100-sword stairs. The 9 sword beams resisted for 10 breaths of time before they were finally broken by Yi Chunfeng's 6th level of sword force. They disappeared into the void. Chapter 141. I'm the guardian of the True Spirit's secret realm. You can call me True Spirit. A rare smile appeared on the True Spirit's face as it said in a deep voice, "Congratulations on passing the 100-sword steps. Thank you, Senior True Spirit. By the way, Junior, we still don't know your name." The tablet spirit asked in a low voice as it looked at Yi Chunfeng with approval. My name is Yi Chunfeng. Yi Chunfeng was not surprised to see the tablet spirit here. He reported his name respectfully. Yi Chunfeng, your perseverance, talent, and comprehension are the best I've ever seen. However, it's still far from enough to pass the ultimate test and inherit the spirit tribe's inheritance. Now, let me explain the 3 tests in detail to you. The first test is a test of strength. The test will last for 1 month. When the time comes, I'll send you to a gravitational space. If you can break the gravitational space within a month, you'll pass the test. If you can't break the gravitational space within a month, you'll be crushed to death by the gravitational force. Also, in the gravitational space, you won't be able to use any weapons. You can only rely on your own strength to break the spatial boundary. If you pass the test, I'll give you a reward. The True Spirit's secret realm explained in detail. Break the spatial boundary. Although Yi Chunfeng had expected the ultimate test to be difficult, he did not expect the first test to be breaking the spatial boundary. The second test is a test of comprehension. You'll need to comprehend a mid-grade Dao skill hidden in a Dao tablet within a month. You'll have to comprehend the first move and break the spatial boundary. If you fail, you'll die. The True Spirit's secret realm continued. Comprehend a mid-grade Dao skill. After knowing the second test, Yi Chunfeng could not help but gasp. Dao skills were soul skills that were above heavenly skills. They were only legends. If Dao skills appeared in the Duhan continent, it would set off a bloody storm. More importantly, it was said that Dao skills contained the power of the great Dao. In order to comprehend a Dao skill, one must first comprehend the great Dao concept contained in it. This was undoubtedly more difficult. Senior, may I know what the third test is? Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and calmed his mind before asking. The third trial is a test of life and death. You will be tested by the sword puppet. If you can withstand the sword puppet's attacks for 2 hours without dying, you will pass, the True Spirit said. Senior True Spirit, I wonder how strong that sword puppet is. Although it sounded like the third test was not that difficult, Yi Chunfeng knew that it was definitely the most dangerous one. Hence, he asked, the attack power of the sword puppet depends on your bone age. However, even the weakest attack of the sword puppet is equivalent to the attack of a peerless king of your world. As for the sword puppet's defense, not even the strongest in your world can break it, the True Spirit said slowly. Withstanding the attacks of a peerless king for 2 hours without dying. After learning about the third test, Yi Chunfeng suddenly felt a sense of helplessness. Not to mention him, even a peerless king wouldn't be able to withstand the attacks of a peerless king for 2 hours without dying. More importantly, the other party's defense was invincible. It could be said that the third test was almost impossible to pass. What's wrong, Yi Chunfeng? Are you scared? If you're scared, I'll send you out with the others when the true spirit's secret realm closes, the real spirit said in a low voice as it looked at the silent Yi Chunfeng. No, I am willing to take the test. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and said firmly. If he was sent out of the true spirit realm with the others, what awaited him would be death. There was no way he could escape the pursuit of the experts of the 3 sections. Rather than that, he might as well take the risk. All right. Stand still. I will check your bone age and set the difficulty of the test accordingly. The true spirit nodded and said after hearing Yi Chunfeng's firm voice. Buzz. Buzz. Red light poured out of the true spirit's body and surged into Yi Chunfeng's body to check his bone age. 17 years old. After about 2 breaths, the true spirit dispersed the red light and said, Not bad, not bad. With your bone age, you can take the lowest difficulty test. The sword puppet's attack will also be set at the level of a rank 1 reverse beast king. Alright, rest for a while. Let me know when you have recovered. I will send you to the gravity space. After about half an hour, Yi Chunfeng adjusted his body to its peak state and was sent into the gray gravity space by the true spirit. The pressure in the gravity space will increase every day. Remember not to waste time. Otherwise, the pressure will increase towards the end. The true spirit, which was floating in the gravity space, reminded Yi Chunfeng as it looked at him with a serious expression. Thank you, Senior. Yi Chunfeng nodded and kept thinking of ways to break through the gravity space. Activate the gravity space. Seeing that Yi Chunfeng was prepared, the true spirit activated the gravitational space. In an instant, a powerful pressure formed in the gravitational space, crushing down on Yi Chunfeng like an avalanche. Collapsing cloud palm. The first day of the gravitational space's heavy pressure was completely within Yi Chunfeng's tolerance range. He took a deep breath, dispelling the effects of the heavy pressure on his body, and sent a cloud-piercing palm strike at the gravitational space, bombarding the gray spatial barrier. However, the gravity-space boundary wall did not even ripple after being attacked by the collapsing cloud palm. This made Yi Chunfeng realize how sturdy the gravity-space boundary wall was. It seems that with my current strength, it is impossible to break through the gravity-space boundary wall. The only thing I can do now is to break through to the rank 5 Earth Beast General Realm and cultivate the muscle refining realm to greater completion. After pondering for a while, Yi Chunfeng took out the 10,000-year-old blood ginseng king he had obtained from the true spirit's secret realm and swallowed it. Then, he used the soul-devouring art to refine it and break through to the rank 5 Earth Beast General Realm. The 10,000-year-old blood ginseng king had grown in the true spirit's secret realm for several tens of thousands of years. The spirit energy it contained was extremely powerful. When it melted in Yi Chunfeng's body, it immediately turned into a large amount of spirit energy. Under the soul-devouring art's devouring, it crazily fused into Yi Chunfeng's body. Soon, a layer of bloody light formed around Yi Chunfeng's body, slowly enveloping his entire body. Roughly 2 days later, Yi Chunfeng had completely absorbed the 10,000-year-old blood ginseng king. His soul energy was almost brimming. He was only a step away from breaking through to the rank 5 Earth Beast General Realm. After refining the 10,000-year-old blood ginseng king, Yi Chunfeng took out the several spirit-grade soul pills he had obtained from the Storm Valley's disciples. He swallowed all of them and continued to refine and absorb them. Soon, Yi Chunfeng's meridians were filled with spirit energy. His skin swelled and a tearing pain came from his skin. However, Yi Chunfeng was unmoved by this. He used all of his strength to cultivate the soul-devouring art and increase his soul energy. Chapter 142. Phew, I finally made a breakthrough. Breaking through to the next realm in 5 days was completely within Yi Chunfeng's plan. He silently circulated his soul power, which had increased by several folds, and stood up against the enormous spatial pressure. Then, he once again struck the spatial barrier with his cloud-collapsing palm. Rumble! The spatial barrier trembled for a moment. Although the power of the cloud-crushing palm had increased by several folds, it was still unable to break through the spatial barrier. It only created a slight spatial ripple. Sigh, this spatial barrier is too sturdy. It seems like I can only place my hopes on the two ghost-face weeping heart fruit. Otherwise, I might really die here. As Yi Chunfeng looked at the spatial barrier rippling, he sighed softly. Then, he took out the ghost-face crying heart fruit that was sealed in his universe pouch and continuously gave off a ghostly sobbing sound. Although the ghost-face weeping heart fruit was a divine item, it contained a terrifying demonic nature. If a person without intelligence were to consume it, they would immediately lose their sense of self and be controlled by the ghost-face weeping heart fruit. They would become a walking corpse. Ghost-face weeping heart fruit, it's all up to you. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and spat out a ray of soul light. It wrapped around the ghost-face weeping heart fruit and swallowed it directly into his stomach. He circulated the soul-devouring art to refine it. Boom! A berserk energy burst out from Yi Chunfeng's body and filled his entire body in an instant. It tore apart all the meridians and blood vessels in his body. A large amount of blood flowed out uncontrollably from his body. Facing this kind of wanton destruction to the body, an ordinary person would have already died. However, Yi Chunfeng relied on his powerful physical strength and willpower to withstand it. He circulated the 6-meridian divine shield over and over again to refine his severely damaged meridians. This state was maintained for half a minute before the demonic nature of the ghost-face weeping heart fruit erupted. Roar! The rolling demonic sound was like a clap of thunder from the 9th heaven. It exploded in Yi Chunfeng's body. The terrifying sound shook Yi Chunfeng's eardrums, and a large amount of blood flowed out. How can the demonic nature of this ghost-face weeping heart fruit be so terrifying? Feeling the demonic nature released by the ghost-face weeping heart fruit rush into his mind like a surging sea, Yi Chunfeng was greatly alarmed and hurriedly guarded his mind. However, the 2 ghost-face crying heart fruits that Yi Chunfeng had obtained had been nurtured for too long, and the demonic nature they contained exceeded Yi Chunfeng's imagination, forming countless illusions in his mind. A boundless sea of blood surged, forming a rapidly spinning blood vortex. It released a powerful suction force, sucking Yi Chunfeng's soul, wanting to suck it into the blood vortex and devour it. Devour the godly brain, devour the demonic nature. Yi Chunfeng bit the tip of his tongue and tried his best to regain consciousness. He controlled the God-Eater brain to devour the large amount of demonic nature in his mind. Rumble, a gigantic brain, appeared above the sea of blood. It wriggled rapidly, and a terrifying devouring power surged into the sea of blood. After being devoured by the God-Eater brain, the demonic nature of the ghost-face weeping heart fruit constantly resisted. Monstrous waves violently surged like giant hands that covered the sky, ruthlessly attacking the God-Eater brain. Every time the demonic nature of the ghost-face weeping heart fruit collided with the God-Eater brain, Yi Chunfeng felt a splitting headache, as if his head would explode at any time. However, Yi Chunfeng's heart was firm. He clenched his teeth and bitterly persevered, enduring the double pain in his soul and body. He repeatedly cultivated the 6 meridians divine shield, tempering his meridians. After an unknown amount of time, under the crazy devouring of the God-Eater brain, the demonic nature of the ghost-face weeping heart fruit became weaker and weaker. Finally, the strange sea of blood image in Yi Chunfeng's mind suddenly shattered, and a large amount of blood flowed out from his 7 orifices. Phew, the God-Eater brain has finally devoured the demonic nature of the ghost-face weeping heart fruit. The most difficult thing to refine the ghost-face weeping heart fruit was the demonic nature. Now that the demonic nature had been devoured by the God-Eater brain, the dispirited Yi Chunfeng ignored the damage to his soul and endured the huge spatial pressure. He controlled the spiritual energy of the ghost-face weeping heart fruit and sent it into his meridians, wholeheartedly cultivating the 6 meridians divine shield. Although the process of tempering his meridians was still extremely painful, Yi Chunfeng had no way out. If he was unable to reach the large success realm of muscle refining and greatly increase his physical strength, then he would most likely die in this gravitational space. I can't give up. I must succeed. No amount of pain can hinder my growth. Yi Chunfeng tightly bit his lips, constantly encouraging himself, enduring the pain of tempering his meridians. Time passed day by day. Roughly 4 days later, Yi Chunfeng, who had been tortured to death by the ghost face weeping heart fruit, finally managed to refine the pure spiritual energy in his body into his meridians, reaching the small success realm of muscle refining. His pure physical strength had reached 50,000 genes. Phew, I've finally refined a ghost face weeping heart fruit and reached the small success realm of muscle refining. Yi Chunfeng let out a long sigh of relief. He took out a soul-returning pill from his spatial bag and swallowed it, adjusting his breathing to recover. Half a day later, Yi Chunfeng, who had recovered, took out a second ghost face weeping heart fruit and swallowed it without hesitation. Enduring the double pain of his soul and body, he continued to refine the pure spiritual energy contained in the fruit, tempering his meridians. Just as Yi Chunfeng was in the gravitational space, enduring the inhuman pain to temper his meridians, accumulating strength to break through the spatial barrier, a month had passed. A powerful teleportation force appeared in the sky of the true spirit's secret realm, sending Fu Yue and the others to the outside world. It's been a month. Sky-bearing, Shan Xian and the others are finally coming out. I wonder how their harvest was this time? Dressed in a white robe, the Sword Hall Master exuding a sharp sword aura looked at the black hole that suddenly changed, revealing a look of anticipation. They're out. Not long after, figures came out of the black hole one after another, landing on the damp swamp. After Fu Yue left the true spirit secret realm, she first looked at the crowd, but did not see Yi Chunfeng's figure. She was slightly worried for him. However, she was also aware of her situation. Taking advantage of the time when Jian Qing Tian and the others were not out, she took out a middle-grade earth tool axe and went to the leader of the Heavenly Fire Sect, the Sword Hall Master, and said, "Sword Hall Master, this is my harvest in the true spirit secret realm, a middle-grade earth tool axe." Middle-grade earth tool. The hall leader of the Sword Hall raised his eyebrows, and a look of joy appeared on his proud face. He hurriedly took the giant axe from Fu Yue's hands. After confirming that it was indeed a medium-rank earth weapon, he asked, "Fu Yue, what reward do you want? I wonder if Yu is lucky enough to become the Sword Hall Master's unofficial disciple." Fu Yue slightly revealed her second blade aura and said, "Blade aura." While the Sword Hall Master was hesitating, he suddenly felt the second blade aura from Fu Yue's body. He raised his eyebrows, and his heart was in turmoil. Sword aura and blade aura were interlinked. Those who could comprehend blade aura were more talented than ordinary people, and their future was limitless. Thinking of this, the Sword Hall Master nodded and said, "All right, I'll accept you as my unofficial disciple. In the future, you will follow me to the Heavenly Fire Sect's Sword Hall to cultivate. When you break through to the Heavenly Beast Immortal Realm, I'll accept you as my official disciple." "Thank you, Master." Fu Yue secretly heaved a sigh of relief. With the Sword Hall Master's protection, she did not have to be afraid of Jian Qing Tian and the others seeking revenge. "No, Hall Master, you can't accept her as your unofficial disciple." Jian Qing Tian, who had just left the true spirit secret realm, heard that the Sword Hall Master wanted to accept Fu Yue as his unofficial disciple and quickly stopped him. "Why?" The Sword Hall Master did not know that Shan Xian and the others had died in the true spirit secret realm. He frowned slightly and asked in a low voice. Chapter 143. "What? You said Shan Xian died?" After hearing the news of Shan Xian's death, a terrifying murderous aura exploded from Yu Mingzi's body. He stared at Jian Qingtian and asked loudly, Yes, Shan Xian was killed by Yi Chunfeng, and this Fu Yue helped Yi Chunfeng deal with us. Jian Qingtian couldn't bear Yu Mingzi's ferocious gaze and lowered his head as he spoke. Master, please believe me. Yu Shan Xian's death has nothing to do with me. Fu Yue looked at Yu Mingzi's terrifying gaze and quickly said, Qingtian, tell me what happened. How did Shan Xian die? Sword Hall Master's deep eyes shot out a sharp light as he questioned in a low voice. Yes, Sword Hall Master. Jian Qingtian's vicious gaze swept past the cold and beautiful Fu Yue as he recounted how Yi Chunfeng killed Yu Shan Xian and the others. Qingfeng actually killed Yu Shan Xian and nearly 10 disciples of the 3 major sections. After listening to Jian Qingtian's narration, Sword Hall Master and the others revealed a look of deep shock. They couldn't believe that Yi Chunfeng, who was only a 4th-grade Earth Beast General, had such strength. As for Qian Daobai, his heart was in turmoil. He was worried about Yi Chunfeng, who had yet to come out of the true spirit secret realm. Xingyu, where are Xingyu and the others? Who killed Xingyu and the others? At this moment, the spatial black hole slowly shrank and finally disappeared above the 9 heavens. The Storm Valley Elder discovered that only 3 of the 10 disciples who entered the true spirit secret realm had left the secret realm alive. His heart sank as he roared loudly. As for these 3 disciples, because of the distance, they didn't enter the ancient stone hall. Therefore, they didn't know the cause of death of Zhang Xingyu and the others. Elder Feng, Zhang Xingyu and the others were killed by a disciple of the Heavenly Fire sect called Yi Chunfeng. Our Thunderbird Mountain's disciples also died in his hands. Hearing the Storm Valley Elder's angry roar, the Thunderbird Mountain Elder, who had learned the truth from Yang Bingfeng, revealed it with ill intentions. What? Jian Yuan, your Heavenly Fire School's disciple is really daring to kill my Storm Valley's disciple. When the elders of Storm Valley learned that 6 of their disciples, including Zhang Xingyue, had died at the hands of Yi Chunfeng, they were all enraged. Killing intent surged from their bodies. That Yi Chunfeng is not a disciple of my Heavenly Fire sect. Yu Shanxian, a disciple of my Heavenly Fire sect's Yin Yang Hall, also died at his hands. I also want to kill him for revenge. Hearing Elder Feng's roar, Hall Master Jin said with a gloomy expression. Good, then when he comes out, whoever dares to stop me from killing him will be irreconcilable with me. The furious Storm Valley Elder swore in front of everyone. You, the middle-rank earth tool you gave me was given to you by Yi Chunfeng, right? Jian Yuan didn't pay any attention to the crazy Storm Valley people, and asked in a low voice. Yes. Fu Yue nodded and answered honestly. Then tell me honestly, where did Yi Chunfeng go? Jian Yuan asked. He entered the inner part of the stone hall, but my strength is limited and I couldn't go in. I don't know if he's alive or dead. Fu Yue said truthfully. You still have a middle-rank earth tool on you, right? Give it to me. Jian Yuan heard from Jian Qingtian that Fu Yue still had a middle-rank earth tool and ordered loudly. Yes. Although she was reluctant, Fu Yue didn't dare to disobey Jian Yuan's order. She took out the black tool from her cosmos bag and handed it to Jian Yuan. After receiving 2 middle-rank earth tools, Jian Yuan's expression eased a little. He glanced at the cold and elegant Fu Yue and said, For the sake of these 2 middle-rank earth tools, I won't be calculative with you. But if you dare to have anything to do with Yi Chunfeng again, don't blame me for being rude to you. Thank you, Master. I wouldn't dare. Fu Yue nodded. She knew that she was out of danger. Hall Master Jian, do you think that Stone Palace is the one recorded in the ancient records that appeared in the true spirit realm thousands of years ago? Netherworld Child asked through voice transmission, his eyes glinting fiercely. It's very likely that it's the Divine Hall with the supreme inheritance. Jian Yuan nodded and said, Hall Master Jian, what should we do now? That kid is trapped in the true spirit realm. It's almost impossible for us to find him. Yu Mingzi asked with a frown. Wait. If he's lucky enough to survive, he'll definitely come out. Jian Yuan thought for a moment and said. He was greedy for the treasures that Yi Qinfeng had. The people from Sky Fire Sect chose to wait in the Blackpool Swamp. The people from Storm Valley and Thunderbird Mountain didn't leave either. They waited patiently for Yi Qinfeng to appear. God bless. I hope that Qingfeng will be blessed and find another way out of the true spirit realm. Fu Yue, who was sitting cross-legged beside Jian Yuan, prayed for Yi Qinfeng in her heart. Spirit power, enter my meridians. At this time, Yi Qinfeng relied on his extraordinary endurance to control the God-Eater brain to swallow the demonic nature of the ghost face crying heart fruit. He began to focus on refining his meridians. As he forced the spirit power of the ghost face crying heart fruit into his meridians felt as if they were piercing his bones. All his muscles twitched. 6th stage of the muscle refinement realm, 7th stage, 8th stage. Yi Qinfeng endured the increasing spatial pressure. After bitterly cultivating for 4 days, he finally managed to compress all the spiritual energy from the second ghost face crying heart fruit into his tendons and meridians, reaching the 9th layer of the tendon refinement realm. His physical strength reached 180,000 kilograms. He was only a step away from reaching great accomplishment, which was 200,000 kilograms. The 6th meridian divine shield becomes more and more difficult to cultivate to the end. 2 ghost face crying heart fruits are actually unable to reach the muscle refinement realm. Yi Qinfeng sighed softly. Although Yi Qinfeng still had a few spirit-level soul pills, the pressure in the gravity space was growing stronger and stronger. Yi Qinfeng's body was also growing heavier and heavier. After pondering for a while, he gave up on the idea of cultivating to the muscle refinement realm. He prepared to attack the spatial world wall with all his strength. Yi Qinfeng sat cross-legged in place and silently adjusted his breathing for a while. He adjusted his body to its peak state and slowly stood up against the overwhelming spatial pressure. Cloud-shattering palm. Yi Qinfeng took a deep breath and fused all his body's strength with his soul power, forming a shocking 250 gene of strength. He poured it all into his right palm and sent a palm strike at the sturdy spatial world wall. Rumble, an invincible, cloud-piercing palm light shot out. Wherever the palm light went, the gravity would explode and the airflow would surge. The palm light, whose power was compressed to the extreme, smashed heavily on the boundary wall of space, causing it to distort. After that palm strike, Yi Qinfeng sent out 3 more palm strikes, continuously smashing into the spatial world wall. Spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the spatial world wall. But before Yi Qinfeng could rejoice, the spatial world wall's cracks began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. The distorted space returned to normal. Damn it, it's still not enough. His physical strength had nearly doubled, but he was still unable to break through the spatial world wall. Yi Qinfeng couldn't help but become anxious. After a simple rest, Yi Qinfeng released 6 layers of sword energy. One hand interweaved with a world-shocking sword light, the other hand struck out with a cloud-shattering palm. He spared no effort in attacking the spatial world wall. Yi Qinfeng's left and right attacks were extremely terrifying, but the spatial world wall's toughness surpassed his imagination. Yi Qinfeng crazily attacked for an incense stick's worth of time. His soul power was nearly exhausted, but he was still unable to break through the spatial world wall. Chapter 144. Damn it! Just how much power do I need to break through the spatial barrier and leave this place? Yi Qinfeng, who had exhausted himself, was panting heavily as he revealed a distressed expression. He felt that if this dragged on, the gravity of the gravitational space would exceed what he could endure. At that time, his strength would be greatly affected, and he would not be able to unleash his strongest attack. Looks like I can only make one last attempt. If I fail, I'm afraid I won't have another chance. Yi Qinfeng gritted his teeth and used his greatest trump card, the life spirit technique. In an instant, he burned 50 years of his lifespan. A large amount of life force fused into his body, instantly giving him the strength of a level 1 heavenly beast immortal. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath. Facing the boundless spatial pressure, he soared into the air and quickly approached the spatial barrier. A huge blood egg appeared on his body, amplifying his soul power. Cloud-shattering palm. Yi Chunfeng roared. All the soul power and strength in his body were channeled into his right palm. An unparalleled palm light heavily bombarded the spatial boundary wall, causing the spatial boundary wall to distort. A large number of explosive sounds shook the sky like the roar of a tiger, lingering in the air for a long time without dissipating. Break! Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and endured the immense spatial pressure. With an insufferably arrogant attitude, he violently bombarded the spatial barrier. He forcibly tore cracks in the spatial barrier and was about to break through it. However, at this moment, a terrifying gravitational force surged out from the spatial barrier that was about to shatter. It struck Yi Chunfeng's body like a heavy hammer, directly smashing him from mid-air to the ground, smashing a huge crater in the ground. How can this be? Could it be that simply breaking through the spatial barrier is not enough to leave this place? It could be said that in the previous round of attacks, Yi Chunfeng had used all of his trump cards. He was about to break through the spatial barrier, but he was knocked down by the force that surged out from the spatial crack. This made his heart sink to the bottom. Could it be that the method I used to break through the spatial barrier is wrong? This spatial barrier cannot be broken through with brute force? Thinking of this possibility, Yi Chunfeng suppressed the frustration in his heart and calmed down. With the help of the God-Eater brain, he released a powerful soul power into the gravitational space, which made him feel a little suspicious. Time flew by quickly. The pressure in the gravitational space grew stronger and stronger. However, Yi Chunfeng was like an old monk in meditation, sitting motionlessly on the spot. It's been 22 days. That Yi Chunfeng still hasn't broken through the spatial barrier. It seems like he's not the person our spirit tribe is waiting for. The tablet spirit knew that the closer he was, the more it was difficult to break through the spatial barrier. No, he still has a chance. Through the gravitational space, the tablet spirit had been observing Yi Chunfeng's every move. He realized that Yi Chunfeng had calmed down after using the life spirit technique on the 16th day. He guessed that Yi Chunfeng still had some tricks up his sleeve, but the time was not right. After another 3 days, when the pressure in the gravitational space reached a suffocating level, all of Yi Chunfeng's muscles trembled under the pressure. Suddenly, Yi Chunfeng opened his eyes. His eyes, which were as deep as the stars, locked onto a certain point in the gravitational space. Life Spirit Technique, 50 years of lifespan, burn. Yi Chunfeng roared and burned another 50 years of his lifespan at all costs. He ignited the life force in his body and greatly increased his strength. After using the Life Spirit Technique for the 3rd time, Yi Chunfeng had burned 150 years of his lifespan. However, Yi Chunfeng had no other choice. He could only risk it all, or he would die here. 6 Sword Force Break. An earth-shattering sword light spurted out from his body, slicing through the earth-shattering gravitational force and thrusting into the space barrier like mercury flowing down the ground. Immediately, a series of energy ripples surged out, and a large number of small cracks appeared on the spatial barrier. As expected, this is the weak point of the spatial barrier. Seeing the small cracks on the spatial barrier, Yi Chunfeng did not hesitate. His entire body flew out like an arrow and penetrated the layers of pressure. He flew into the air. Soul power flooded into his right palm like a tidal wave. He blasted out a shocking palm radiance that wanted to shatter the sky. Cloud-crushing palm. The cloud-crushing palm radiance that was compressed to the extreme carried a shocking destructive power. It hit the weak point of the spatial barrier and blasted a huge hole in the spatial barrier. In the next moment, Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and passed through the spatial gap. He disappeared from the gravitational space and returned to the shrine. Yi Qinfeng, congratulations on passing the first round of the test. Looking at Yi Qinfeng, who had returned to the shrine, the true spirit revealed a rare smile on its proud face. It said in a deep voice, "This is your reward." As it spoke, the true spirit's right arm drew across the void and cut open the space of the shrine. A blood-red crystal that looked like it had a life of its own and a pair of dazzling golden wings flew out of the spatial gap and floated in front of Yi Qinfeng. This crystal has a drop of golden rock's blood essence sealed in it. This pair of wings is the wings of a level 9 heavenly beast, Golden Rock, the true spirit said slowly. Golden Rock's blood essence, Golden Rock wings. After knowing the reward for the first round of the test, Yi Qinfeng was pleasantly surprised. The Golden Rock was known as the bird of extreme speed. The blood of the Golden Rock flowed in its body. Legend had it that the Golden Rock could travel hundreds of miles with a flap of its wings. It was one of the fastest heavenly beasts in the Duhan continent. A level 9 heavenly beast, Golden Rock, was equivalent to a level 6 combat beast emperor. A golden rock of this level was definitely the most terrifying existence in the Duhan continent. It was difficult to even encounter one, let alone kill it. It could be said that the value of the Golden Rock's blood essence and Golden Rock wings was enough to shake the entire Duhan continent. Yi Qinfeng, don't be too happy. In fact, the Golden Rock's blood essence was not supposed to be the reward for the first round of the test. However, my master thought that it would be difficult for ordinary people to refine the Golden Rock's wings, so he left a drop of the purest Golden Rock's blood essence. If you want to refine the Golden Rock's wings and make it a part of your body, you must first refine the Golden Rock's blood essence and form a strand of the Golden Rock's blood in your body. Only then will the Golden Rock's wings not reject you and you can refine them freely, the true spirit said. Senior, before I accept the second round of the test, can I refine the Golden Rock's blood essence and Golden Rock's wings first? In order to increase his strength, Yi Qinfeng planned to refine the Golden Rock's blood essence and Golden Rock's wings immediately to increase his life-saving trump card. Yes, the true spirit nodded and said, "Thank you, Senior." After thanking the true spirit, Yi Qinfeng sat cross-legged on the high platform and quickly entered the dark space. He quickly recovered the soul power that he had expended and adjusted his condition. After about a day, Yi Qinfeng had fully recovered his soul power. After adjusting his condition to its peak, he took out the crystal that sealed the Golden Rock's blood essence. Bang! Yi Qinfeng slightly exerted force with his 5 fingers and crushed the red crystal. He opened his mouth and sucked in the Golden Rock's blood essence that contained pure life energy. Chapter 145. The bright red Golden Rock blood essence flowed into Yi Qinfeng's body like a ferocious tiger that had been released from its cage. It exploded with shocking energy and rampaged through his body, damaging his internal organs and meridians. In the blink of an eye, large amounts of blood seeped out of Yi Qinfeng's pores. It was a horrifying sight. Fortunately, Yi Qinfeng had cultivated his 6 meridians divine shield to the great success realm. His internal organs and meridians were much tougher than an ordinary person's, so he was able to withstand the wanton destruction of the Golden Rock blood essence. Soul-devouring art, refine. Yi Qinfeng clenched his teeth and relied on his inhuman endurance to withstand the intense pain in his body. He circulated the soul-devouring art over and over again to refine the violent Golden Rock blood essence and integrate it into his cells. Lord True Spirit, do you think he can refine the Golden Rock blood essence? The Golden Rock's blood essence contains the bloodline of the divine beast, the golden-winged Great Rock. An ordinary person might explode from the power contained in the Golden Rock's blood essence, the tablet spirit said as it looked at the pale Yi Qinfeng, who was in extreme pain. Don't worry. This Yi Qinfeng is far more outstanding than you and I imagined. He should have a way to refine the Golden Rock blood essence. The true spirit looked at Yi Chunfeng with deep meaning. It was looking forward to him even more. When the violent golden rock blood essence surged into Yi Chunfeng's heart meridians in an attempt to destroy Yi Chunfeng's heart meridians, the golden rock blood essence suddenly trembled as if it had discovered something terrifying. It was timid and wanted to quickly leave Yi Chunfeng's heart meridians. But in the next moment, the chaos divine wood that was parasitizing Yi Chunfeng's heart meridians sensed the existence of the golden rock blood essence. It suddenly extended a large number of roots and penetrated the golden rock blood essence, frantically devouring it. In less than 5 breaths, 90% of the golden rock blood essence had been devoured by the chaos divine wood. The remaining 10% of the golden rock blood essence calmed down and stopped its destruction. Under the soul-devouring art's refinement, it slowly merged into Yi Chunfeng's body. Yes, this is the power of chaos. The chaos divine wood had devoured 90% of the golden rock's blood essence and produced a strand of 5-colored divine power. According to the God-Eater Brain's analysis, this strand of 5-colored divine power was one of the most powerful forces in the universe, the power of chaos. Legend had it that the primal chaos force was the power left behind before the creation of the world. It was the source of all things, a power that only gods could control. I wonder if I can withstand the test of the sword puppet with this strand of chaos energy. With the help of the God-Eater Brain, Yi Chunfeng repeatedly sensed the primal chaos force. He felt how terrifying it was and revealed a look of pleasant surprise. There's something in his body that can restrain the golden rock's blood essence. The true spirit, who was waiting by the side, revealed a trace of surprise when it sensed that the golden rock blood essence had stopped devouring Yi Chunfeng's body. It seems that this Yi Chunfeng has many secrets on him. Perhaps he really can inherit our spirit tribe's inheritance. The true spirit thought to itself. The golden rock's blood essence contained a terrifying amount of energy. As the golden rock's blood essence continued to fuse into Yi Chunfeng's body, Yi Chunfeng's soul power rapidly increased and soon reached the point of overflowing. Rank 6 Earthly Beast General Breakthrough. Feeling that he could no longer suppress the increase in his cultivation, Yi Chunfeng allowed his soul power to break through the bottleneck and break through to the Rank 6 Earthly Beast General. The moment he broke through, all the cells in his body became active and continuously fused with the golden rock's blood essence. In the end, 1/10 of the golden rock's blood essence fused into Yi Chunfeng's body and formed a faint golden rock bloodline in his body. Phew, I finally succeeded. After breaking through to the next rank and forming a golden rock bloodline in his body, Yi Chunfeng let out a long sigh and woke up from his cultivation. After refining the golden rock's blood essence, you only broke through by 1 rank? The true spirit knew that the golden rock's blood essence contained an enormous amount of energy. It couldn't understand how Yi Chunfeng, who was an earthly beast general, could only break through by 1 rank after refining and absorbing the golden rock's blood essence. The true spirit felt that Yi Chunfeng was hiding a great secret. Junior's body is a bit special, so the golden rock's blood essence only increased my cultivation by 1 rank. Yi Chunfeng vaguely explained. Alright, now that you have the golden rock's bloodline in your body, you only need to fuse your blood with the golden rock's wings in a moment and let the golden rock's wings resonate with your body. Then, you will be able to absorb them into your body and slowly refine them. The true spirit saw that Yi Chunfeng was intentionally hiding his secret and didn't continue to ask. It told Yi Chunfeng the method to refine the golden rock's wings. Yi Chunfeng simply adjusted his breathing for a while and took out the golden rock's wings, which had a wingspan of more than 3 meters. He bit his left and right index fingers and pressed them on the golden rock's wings, fusing large amounts of blood with the golden rock's bloodline into the wings. As Yi Chunfeng had only refined 1/10 of the golden rock's blood essence, the golden rock's bloodline in his blood was very thin. He couldn't connect with the golden rock's wings even though he fused large amounts of blood into them. Fortunately, Yi Chunfeng's blood essence was very vigorous. He resisted the dizziness that appeared in his mind and continuously fused his blood into the golden rock's wings. After about 30 minutes, when Yi Chunfeng had lost nearly half of his blood, he finally connected with the golden rock's wings. With a thought, he absorbed the golden rock's wings into his body and circulated the soul-devouring art to slowly refine them. Yi Chunfeng, take a rest. I will send you to the second test location tomorrow. Seeing that Yi Chunfeng had successfully absorbed the golden rock's wings into his body, the true spirit said slowly, "By the way, Senior, I wonder if you can help me take a look at my spiritual beast? I really want to know what it is." Yi Chunfeng knew the consequences of failing the second test. He wanted to find out what his spiritual beast was before the test, so he softly asked the true spirit that had existed for a long time. "Sure." The true spirit nodded and said, "Buzz." With a thought, Yi Chunfeng's soul power surged out of his mind and gathered into a blood-red egg. "Egg, your spiritual beast is an egg?" The true spirit and the tablet spirit were surprised when they saw Yi Chunfeng's spiritual beast. They had never seen such a strange spiritual beast before. "Senior, can you see the true state of this blood egg?" Yi Chunfeng looked at the true spirit and the tablet spirit that were in deep thought and asked, "Yi Chunfeng, we can't see the true state of your spiritual beast just by looking at its appearance. However, I feel that this blood egg contains a lot of power. If it hatches, it should be a very high-level spiritual beast." The true spirit repeatedly sensed the blood egg and said, "How about this? If you can pass the third test, I will help you break through to the heavenly beast immortal realm. This way your spiritual beast will mutate and maybe this blood egg will hatch." "Thank you, Senior," Yi Chunfeng said gratefully. "Thank me after you pass the third test. If you can't, you will still die." The true spirit said without a trace of emotion. "This junior understands." Chapter 146. Yi Chunfeng, are you ready? The true spirit stood in front of Yi Chunfeng and asked in a deep voice, "I am ready." Yi Chunfeng, who had completely replenished his blood qi, nodded and said firmly, "Good, I will now send you to the 3 cauldrons Forbidden Land. As long as you can comprehend the Tao skill on the stone tablet and break the 3 black cauldrons, you will be able to leave the Forbidden Land. Remember, the duration of the second round is also 1 month. If you are unable to comprehend the Tao skill on the stone tablet and break the 3 black cauldrons, you will be crushed to death by the 3 black cauldrons." After that, the true spirit's arm, which was wrapped in red light, gently waved and tore open the space, sending Yi Chunfeng to the location of the second round. These are the 3 black cauldrons that are suppressing the Forbidden Land. When Yi Chunfeng arrived at the 3 cauldrons Forbidden Land, he immediately saw the giant black cauldrons that were dozens of meters tall. The cauldrons were completely black and had a large number of ancient dark patterns engraved on them. They were inlaid with beast heads and exuded an ancient aura. When Yi Chunfeng saw the 3 black cauldrons, he felt a huge pressure. He could not imagine what kind of power would be needed to break these 3 mountain-like black cauldrons. 6th level sword aura break. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath. 6th level sword aura gushed out from his body and gathered in his right arm. He slashed the void, and a shocking sword light pierced through the sky. It carried a powerful destructive force and slashed at one of the black cauldrons. An ear-piercing buzzing sound echoed in the air above the 3 cauldrons Forbidden Land and did not dissipate for a long time. After being attacked by Yi Chunfeng's 6th level sword aura, the black cauldron did not leave any sword marks on its surface except for a loud noise. Yi Chunfeng's attack did not cause any damage to it. The tests of the true spirit realm are indeed more difficult than the previous one. To break the black cauldron, the amount of power required is definitely several times greater than breaking through the space barrier. After inspecting the sturdiness of the black cauldron, Yi Chunfeng didn't waste any more time. He directly went to the center of the 3 cauldrons Forbidden Area, where the Tao tablet was more than 10 meters tall and had a surface as smooth as a mirror. He released his soul power and penetrated it. Suddenly, a large amount of white light appeared in Yi Qinfeng's mind. These white lights quickly gathered together, forming a mysterious mid-grade Tao skill cultivation chant. The 7 Swords of Judgment was a mid-grade Tao technique that contained the power of the Great Tao. They were divided into 7 styles: Extreme Frost, Thunder Devour, Waning Moon, Sun Eclipse, Sky Crumble, Destruction, and Judgment. When cultivated to the peak, one could unleash a power comparable to a high-grade Tao skill and destroy the heavens and earth. 7 Swords of Judgment. Just the name of this middle-grade Tao skill alone made Yi Qinfeng feel extremely domineering, as though he could dominate the world. After understanding the 7 Swords of Judgment, Yi Qinfeng calmed down and controlled the God-Eater brain to memorize the 7 Swords of Judgment. If he didn't have the God-Eater brain, Yi Qinfeng wouldn't be able to memorize the 7 Swords of Judgment's cultivation chant in a month with just his perception. However, with the God-Eater brain, Yi Qinfeng only used half a day to memorize the 7 Swords of Judgment's cultivation chant. He started to understand the power of the Great Tao contained in the 7 Swords of Judgment. The power of the Great Tao. When Yi Qinfeng used the God-Eater brain's power to comprehend, he deeply felt the power of the Great Tao. The Great Tao gave birth to 1, 1 gave birth to 2, 2 gave birth to 3, 3 gave birth to all things. The Great Tao represented the laws of heaven and earth. With Yi Qinfeng's current strength, it was impossible for him to completely comprehend it even with the God-Eater brain. Fortunately, cultivating the 7 Swords of Judgment only required a very shallow understanding of the Great Tao. Then, one could transform the power of the Great Tao into the power of intent and comprehend the true essence of the 7 Swords of Judgment. After finding the direction to comprehend the 7 Swords of Judgment, Yi Qinfeng completely immersed himself in it. He controlled the God-Eater brain to deduce the power of the Great Tao and comprehend it over and over again. Time passed day by day as he continued to comprehend. At this time, outside the true spirit secret realm, the experts of the 3 major sects who were guarding the Blackpool Swamp gradually lost their patience. Hall Master Jian, another month has passed, and Yi Qinfeng still hasn't come out. Do you think he's already dead in the true spirit secret realm? Netherworld Child, who was wearing a black robe and had a gloomy expression, asked Jian Yuan, who was meditating with his eyes closed. According to the ancient books of my heavenly fire sect, no one has stayed in the true spirit secret realm for so long. There's an 80 to 90% chance that Yi Qinfeng is already dead. Jian Yuan nodded and said. Then, Hall Master Jian, is there a need for us to continue waiting? Netherworld Child asked. Yes, there's a need. We have to avoid the possibility of Yi Qinfeng coming out of the true spirit secret realm with the supreme inheritance. Although the possibility is very small, we can't be careless. If he really comes out, the opportunity that he has is enough to raise the overall strength of our heavenly fire sect by several levels. How about this? Elder Netherworld Child, you and Elder Huo will continue to wait here. I'll take the middle-grade earth weapon and return first. But don't worry, you and Elder Huo will not miss out on the credit this time, Jian Yuan said after pondering for a while. Alright, then Elder Huo and I will wait for another year. If Yi Qinfeng still doesn't appear in a year, then we'll return. Netherworld Child nodded and agreed. Alright. Disciples of the Heavenly Fire Sect, heed my order. Quickly follow me, Jian Yuan said as he slowly stood up. Yi Qinfeng, did you really die in the true spirit secret realm? Fu Yue looked at the spatial black hole and felt an inexplicable pain in her heart. Yi Qinfeng's figure appeared in her mind, and she couldn't get it out of her mind. The experts of the Storm Valley and Thunderbird Mountain, who were guarding the sides, saw Jian Yuan leave with the Heavenly Fire Sect disciples on the flame-winged windbirds, leaving only Netherworld Child and Elder Huo behind. They immediately communicated through voice transmissions. Soon, the experts of the two sects who had lost their patience left the two elders behind. The rest of them got on their own flying mounts and left the Blackpool swamp. Time flew by and 15 days passed in a flash. After 15 days of comprehension and countless deductions, the God-Eater brain finally captured a trace of the power of the Great Path. Although this trace of power was still very vague, Yi Chunfeng had already tried to cultivate the first move of the 7 Swords of Judgment, Extreme Cold, with the help of the God-Eater brain's powerful deduction ability. Extreme Cold, the power of the Great Path evolved into the water concept. It transformed into a shocking sword light that instantly froze and destroyed everything. Water concept. The profound cold spiritual water seems to contain the water concept. Perhaps with the help of the profound cold spiritual water, I can speed up my cultivation of extreme cold. Yi Chunfeng was surprised. He cleared away the distracting thoughts in his mind and controlled the God-Eater brain to deduce the evolution of the Great Path. He tried to cultivate the first move of the 7 Swords of Judgment, Extreme Cold. Normally, only after breaking through to the reverse Beast King realm could one peek into the power of the Great Path. However, Yi Chunfeng relied on the God-Eater brain to touch the mysteries of the Great Path and the concept. The Tao could be understood, but it couldn't be understood. The path of the Great Path could contain hundreds of Taos, and each one was endless. There were endless changes and endless Taos. Slowly, the power of the Great Path that the God-Eater brain deduced evolved into the water concept. Waves of surging waves came from Yi Chunfeng's body. Extreme cold. Feeling the water concept in his body getting stronger, Yi Chunfeng burst forth with the 6th heaven of sword force. With the power of the sword force, he forcefully activated the water concept and used extreme cold. A sword light condensed from the water concept gushed out from Yi Chunfeng's body. It carried with it a sharp chill as it chopped towards a black cauldron the size of a small mountain in the distance. Chapter 147. It's cracked. Seeing the cracks on the surface of the huge black cauldron, Yi Chunfeng was pleasantly surprised. Although this crack only extended for slightly more than 10 meters and was negligible to the mountain-sized black cauldron, Yi Chunfeng was reassured. He continued to release the 6 tiers of sword force and activated his great Tao power to form the extreme frost sword radiance. Boom, boom, boom. Thunderous vibrations reverberated in all directions. Dense water ripples appeared in the air, causing Yi Chunfeng's soul to tremble. Large amounts of blood flowed out from his mouth and ears. His soul was injured by the sounds from the black cauldron. However, Yi Chunfeng didn't slow down his attacks. He continued to release the 6 tiers of sword force and forcefully unleashed extreme frost to attack the black cauldron. After repeated attacks, Yi Chunfeng's understanding of the 7 Swords of Judgment became deeper and deeper. However, the consumption of extreme frost became greater and greater. The surface of the black cauldron in front of him was also filled with sword scars. Large amounts of cracks extended in all directions. After about a day, the dizziness in Yi Chunfeng's mind became more and more serious. His soul power was almost depleted. He had no choice but to stop attacking. He sat cross-legged on the cracked ground and digested the enlightenment that he had just gained. Another 13 days had passed since he entered this state of enlightenment. There were only 2 days left before the 1-month deadline. If he couldn't break through the 3 spatial suppressing black cauldrons in 2 days, he would lose his life here. Just as Yi Chunfeng seemed to have forgotten about time and sat cross-legged on the ground without moving, an ear-piercing sword hum gushed out from his body. It pierced through the void and slashed at the spatial barrier, stirring up ripples in the air like a lotus flower. 7 Swords of Judgment, Extreme Frost. The moment Yi Chunfeng opened his eyes, countless radiances shot out. The sharp sword chi that gushed out from his body instantly gathered and turned into a huge sword that seemed to be condensed from ice. It froze void space and brought along the great Tao power. It heavily struck the cracked black cauldron. Rumble! The sturdy black cauldron was shattered by Yi Qianfeng's 7 Swords of Judgment's first style, Extreme Frost. The violent energy caused the void to distort, causing the earth to tremble violently. Phew, I finally shattered a black cauldron. Yi Qianfeng, who had comprehended 13 days of enlightenment and broken the black cauldron in one go, did not have any joy on his face. He fell from the sky and panted heavily. As the power of extreme frost increased, the consumption of his soul power also increased. With his current strength, he could only use extreme frost once before exhausting all of his soul power. There are still 2 days left. I don't have much time left. Yi Qianfeng glanced at the 2 towering black cauldrons that were suppressing space and immediately sat down cross-legged on the ground, seizing the time to recover his nearly depleted soul force. Shattering a black cauldron in 28 days? This speed is a little slow. The moment the first black cauldron shattered, the true spirit immediately sensed it. However, the true spirit was not satisfied with this speed. Lord True Spirit, do you think Yi Qianfeng can break the remaining 2 black cauldrons in the remaining 2 days? The monument spirit asked. It's very difficult. The true spirit shook its head and said. Sigh, with Yi Qianfeng's talent, given enough time, his future is limitless. It would be a pity if he died in the 3 cauldrons Forbidden Land. After seeing Yi Qianfeng's shocking talent, the monument spirit's love for talent was aroused. It sighed softly. This is the rule set by Master. I am powerless to change it. However, this is related to the inheritance of our spirit tribe. We cannot be careless, the true spirit said indifferently. Sigh, it seems like we will have to fall into a deep sleep again. The monument spirit sighed softly. They were not optimistic that Yi Qianfeng would be able to break the 2 black cauldrons in the remaining 2 days and pass the test. After half a day, Yi Qianfeng had recovered his depleted soul power and adjusted his body to its peak state. He came to the second black cauldron and was ready to use the 7 Swords of Judgment to break the black cauldron. Huff! Yi Qianfeng took a deep breath, and the 6th layer of sword force gushed out from his body. In an instant, the sword light expanded greatly, and the endless sword light quickly gathered, forming a light sword that was filled with cold air above his head. The sharp sword force cut the air into 2 halves, and the ear-piercing sound of the sword rang out incessantly. 7 Swords of Judgment, Extreme Chill. Yi Qianfeng roared. The 6-fold sword force activated the power of the Great Tao. He controlled the cold air and the light sword to slash down. The terrifying attack caused the heaven and earth to fall into darkness. Boom! The destructive extreme chill sword shadow slashed onto the black cauldron. The powerful force exploded on the surface of the black cauldron, causing cracks to appear on the black cauldron that was dozens of meters tall. The dark and oppressive repulsive force was like a dark and heavy cloud, dispersing in all directions. It didn't shatter. Yi Qianfeng originally thought that he could break the black cauldron with a single sword strike by using extreme chill. However, reality gave him a heavy blow, causing his heart to sink to the bottom. He didn't manage to break the black cauldron this time. Yi Qianfeng's time was very limited. He had less than a day left to recover his depleted soul power. I can't give up. There must be a way. Yi Qianfeng took a deep breath and cleared his mind of distracting thoughts. He sat cross-legged on the ground and quickly recovered his depleted soul power. When the last day arrived, Yi Qianfeng had recovered his depleted soul force. His entire body soared into the air as he unleashed his 6-layered sword force and activated the power of the Great Tao. He executed extreme cold and bombarded the cracked black cauldron, shattering the second black cauldron in one go. Sigh, that Yi Qianfeng has shattered the second black cauldron. However, he has less than a day left. I'm afraid he won't have a chance. The true spirit sighed softly. It felt pity for Yi Qianfeng in its heart. The time left for Yi Qianfeng was getting less and less. However, there wasn't a trace of panic on Yi Qianfeng's face. He made use of the limited time, he had to quickly recover his depleted soul power. When there was still 2 hours left before the 1-month deadline, Yi Chunfeng, who had completely recovered his soul power, stood up. His deep eyes stared at the last black cauldron. Success or failure depends on this. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and adjusted his body to its peak state. His body flew into the air like a sharp sword and stopped in mid-air. 7 swords of judgment, extreme chill, Yi Chunfeng shouted. His cold voice reverberated between heaven and earth. A sword that was filled with extremely cold air slashed down from the sky with the power of the great Tao. It ruthlessly slashed at the last black cauldron. Countless cracks appeared on the black cauldron, but it didn't shatter. Primal chaos force, break for me. Yi Chunfeng used extreme chill. The instant he exhausted the last of his soul power, he used his greatest trump card. The primal chaos force nurtured by the primal chaos divine wood and shot it at the cracked black cauldron. Although this strand of primal chaos force was only the size of a cow's hair, its explosive power shook heaven and earth. When it hit the cracked black cauldron, it instantly exploded with a destructive power. When it shattered the black cauldron, it blasted a huge black hole through the space between the 3 cauldrons. Success. Chapter 148. Primal Chaos Energy? Why do you have the primal chaos energy in your body? Through the 3 cauldrons Forbidden Land, the true spirit sensed the primal chaos energy that Yi Chunfeng released at the last moment. Deep shock appeared on its proud face. I obtained the primal chaos energy by chance. Yi Chunfeng purposely hid the existence of the primal chaos divine wood and explained vaguely. Extraordinary talent, absolute power, shocking comprehension, and great luck. Yi Chunfeng, you might be the person our spirit tribe has been waiting for. The true spirit's eyes shone brightly as it looked at Yi Chunfeng, who was hiding a great secret. It was as if it wanted to see through him. Spirit tribe? Senior, what race is the spirit tribe? Yi Chunfeng raised his eyebrows. This was the first time he had heard of the spirit tribe. Let's talk about it after you pass the last round. Although the true spirit thought highly of Yi Chunfeng, it did not reveal any important information in advance. Yi Chunfeng, this is your reward. A stone tablet with complete sword force and a low-grade celestial artifact, the gigantic Fault Sky Sword. As he spoke, the true spirit's right hand, which was shrouded in red light, swiped across the void. A palm-sized stone tablet that contained a vast sword aura, as well as the gigantic Fault Heavenly Sword that weighed 5,000 kilograms, flew out of the spatial crack and floated in front of Yi Chunfeng. Do you think the second round's reward is much worse than the first round's? The true spirit asked with a rare smile as it looked at Yi Chunfeng's expression when he received the Sword 4 stone tablet and the gigantic Fault Sky Sword. A little. Although the stone tablet with complete sword force was precious and the gigantic Fault Sky Sword was a celestial artifact, compared to the golden rock blood essence and the golden rock wings, it was far less valuable. Actually, the most precious reward in the second round is not the Sword 4 stone tablet, but the cultivation chant of the 7 swords of judgment. Mid-grade Tao skills are extremely rare in the heaven domain, let alone your fighting spirit continent. If you can comprehend the 7th move of the 7 swords of judgment, the power of your attack will be comparable to a high-grade Tao skill. With one slash, you can destroy the moon and sink the stars. Heavenly Domain. Yi Chunfeng learned a lot of information from the true spirit that he had never come into contact with before, and a strong curiosity arose in his heart. All right, you have 3 days to comprehend the Sword 4 stone tablet. Once the 3 days are up, I will send you to the final trial ground and accept the sword puppet's life and death trial, the true spirit said. Yes. Yi Chunfeng nodded and eliminated the distracting thoughts in his mind. He sat cross-legged on the ground and recovered his exhausted soul force as he released his soul force into the Sword 4 stone tablet and comprehended the perfect sword force contained within the stone tablet. Sword scars. There are 10 sword scars in this stone tablet, and the sword force contained in each of the 10 sword scars increases in order. When Yi Qinfeng's soul power seeped into the sword force stone tablet, he discovered 10 sword scars of varying depths. Among them, the final pitch-black sword scar gave Yi Qinfeng a strong sense of danger. Buzz buzz, when Yi Qinfeng's soul force seeped into the first, shallowest sword scar, he immediately felt an unparalleled sword force being released and permeating the sword force stone tablet. Yi Qinfeng had already comprehended the 6 heavens of sword force, so the first sword force wasn't of much help to him. The God-Eater brain only needed to deduce it once before he understood the true essence of this sword force, and began to comprehend the second sword force. Lord True Spirit, what do you think Yi Qinfeng's chances of passing the final trial are? The tablet spirit looked at Yi Qinfeng, who was permeated with sword force that didn't dissipate for a long time, and asked. This Yi Qinfeng is hiding too many secrets. He can actually use the chaotic force to attack. If he can still use the chaotic force when facing the sword puppet, then he has an 80% chance of passing the life and death trial. But if he doesn't have the chaotic force to protect him, then he only has a 30% chance of passing the life and death trial, the True Spirit said slowly. Lord True Spirit, I have a feeling that he might really be the person our spirit clan is waiting for, the tablet spirit said. Let's wait until he passes the final trial. The True Spirit said, and don't forget, the True Spirit's secret realm is only the first trial set by our spirit clan. If he wants to obtain the true supreme inheritance of our spirit clan, he still has a long way to go. A day passed by quickly. Suddenly, a sword force shot out from Yi Qinfeng's body and rushed to the top of the divine hall. After the first sword force, another sword force shot out from Yi Qinfeng's body and attacked the top of the divine hall. As the sword force continued to shoot out from Yi Qinfeng's body, Yi Qinfeng's understanding of sword force deepened. Finally, the sword force in Yi Qinfeng's body underwent a qualitative change, reaching the 7 heavens of sword force. In just one day, he managed to push his sword force to the 7 heavens. This Yi Qinfeng can really be called a genius. Feeling the changes in the sword force in Yi Qinfeng's body, the True Spirit couldn't help but praise. After another day, Yi Qinfeng's body suddenly emitted a loud sword cry. Dense water ripples appeared in the air around his body. A surge of sword force surged out of his body and pierced straight towards the roof of the palace, forcibly piercing cracks in the restrictions on the roof of the palace. 8 heavens of sword force. The True Spirit and the Tablet Spirit exchanged a glance and saw the deep shock in each other's eyes. They couldn't imagine that Yi Qinfeng, who was only an Earth Beast General, had such a monstrous talent. There is still one more day. I should be able to push my sword force to the 9 heavens. Yi Qinfeng calculated the time and continued to control the God-Eater brain to study the sword force stone tablet. When the 3-day time limit approached, the air around Yi Qinfeng's body suddenly began to flow rapidly, forming a large amount of opposing currents. Yi Qinfeng, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, was like a treasured sword that had been sealed for hundreds of years. As soon as it was unsheathed, it shocked everyone. 9 heavens of sword force complete. Yi Qinfeng suddenly opened his tightly shut eyes. Boundless sharpness shot out, causing the void to tremble. After 3 days of studying, Yi Qinfeng borrowed the power of the God-Eater brain and finally comprehended the 9 heavens of sword force. His offensive power had increased by several times. Not bad, not bad. In 3 days, you have comprehended 3 heavens of sword force. Even in the spirit race of the past, your comprehension would be at the peak. The True Spirit appeared before Yi Qinfeng and was not stingy with its praise. Senior, with my current strength, what are the chances of me passing the life and death trial? Although his offensive power had increased greatly, Yi Qinfeng knew that the gap between him and a peerless king was like the difference between heaven and earth. If you can use chaotic force, then you have at least an 80% chance of passing the life and death trial. However, if you cannot use chaotic force and rely on your own strength, then you only have a 30% chance of passing, the true spirit said. Only a 30% chance. Yi Chunfeng sucked in a deep breath as a trace of seriousness appeared on his face. If he could not pass the life and death trial, then all his efforts would be for naught, and he would lose his life as a result. Alright, you don't have a way out now. Rest well. After 2 hours, I will send you to the final test location to accept the Sword Spirit Puppets test. The true spirit looked at Yi Chunfeng, who had a heavy expression, and said, "Okay." Yi Chunfeng heavily nodded. He silently regulated his breathing and waited for the final trial. 2 hours later, a pitch-black spatial fissure appeared before Yi Chunfeng. When Yi Chunfeng passed through the spatial fissure, he entered a strange region of outer space. Above the starry sky floated a stern, expressionless man with a sword in his hands. Chapter 149. I am your opponent in this life or death trial. Based on your bone age, I will suppress my power to the level of a level 1 beast king. You only need to withstand my attacks for 2 hours and not die. The sword puppet slowly walked in front of Yi Chunfeng and said emotionlessly, "Also, when we fight, you can use any weapon you want." Okay, let's begin. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and summoned the golden rock wings that he had refined into his body. He planned to use the golden rock wings to increase his speed and delay the sword puppet. As soon as Yi Chunfeng finished speaking, the 6'6" light sword in the sword puppet's hand drew a strange sword shadow. It tore through space and slashed at Yi Chunfeng with a speed that was hard to see with the naked eye. The moment the sword puppet attacked, Yi Chunfeng's sharp senses sensed danger. He reacted in advance. The golden rock wings on his back flapped violently, creating a gust of wind. He flew into the air and narrowly dodged the sword puppet's attack. Gigantic Sword of Heaven. Yi Chunfeng slapped his Qianquan bag. The gigantic sword of heaven and earth flew out and into his hand. At this time, the sword puppet slashed a second time. The sword light was as swift as lightning as it slashed at Yi Chunfeng. This slash was faster and more powerful than the first. It completely locked onto Yi Chunfeng, making him feel like he had nowhere to hide. He could only defend with all his strength. Sword form 9 heavens, instant kill. Yi Chunfeng didn't dare to use the 7 swords of judgment. He could only try to fuse the 9 heavens sword form into the gigantic sword of heaven and use all his strength to defend against the second slash. Boom! When the sword puppet's second slash struck the gigantic fault heavenly sword, the explosive force directly shattered the gigantic fault heavenly sword's 9 sword forms and over 200,000 gene of force. The gigantic fault heavenly sword was shaken off Yi Chunfeng's hand, and a large amount of blood spurted out from his arm. If Yi Chunfeng had not cultivated his 6 meridians divine shield to the 4th stage, this sword strike would have been enough to destroy Yi Chunfeng's arm. Too strong. This sword puppet's attack is too strong. If I get hit by it, I'll lose my ability to fight in an instant, Yi Chunfeng said with lingering fear. He did not have the time to pick up the gigantic fault heavenly sword. Buzz buzz buzz. Just as Yi Chunfeng was gasping for breath, the sword puppet's sword hummed loudly. 3 sharp sword lights were like 3 streams of light as they continued to chop down, sealing off Yi Chunfeng's escape routes. Life Spirit Technique, burn 150 years of lifespan. With his life hanging by a thread, Yi Chunfeng did not hesitate to burn 150 years of lifespan. A large amount of life force instantly filled his body, increasing his strength infinitely, allowing him to possess the strength of a level 6 heavenly beast immortal for a short period of time. Although his strength had skyrocketed to the limit, Yi Chunfeng only had 30 years of lifespan left. However, in order to pass the test of the sword puppet, he could not care less. Swish! Swish! With his strength skyrocketing, Yi Chunfeng flapped his golden rock wings rapidly. In an extremely short period of time, He continuously dodged the three intersecting sword lights of the sword puppet and picked up the gigantic fault heavenly sword that had fallen into the starry sky. While he was dodging the sword puppet, the God-Eater brain was constantly calculating the trajectory of the sword puppet's attacks, trying to buy time. However, the sword puppet's attacks were erratic and had no trajectory to speak of. Yi Chunfeng could not grasp the trajectory of the attacks. "Your speed is not bad, but if you want to dodge my attacks, I'm afraid it's not enough." The sword puppet's gem-like eyes shot out rays of light. The lightsaber in its hand slashed through the air, and a huge crack appeared in the starry sky. It was like the mouth of a demon, extending towards Yi Chunfeng at an extremely fast speed. Sword Force 9 Heavens. Yi Chunfeng knew that blindly dodging would not help. He had to weaken the sword puppet's attacks as much as possible in order to buy time as much as possible. Swish! The sword light filled with the 9 heavens sword force hit the sword puppet's sword shadow and shattered without any suspense. However, the 9 heavens sword force still managed to slow down the sword shadow's attack by a fraction. Yi Chunfeng took advantage of this momentary delay. The golden rock wings on his back flashed violently, and he turned into a golden shadow to dodge the attack. In the instant that Yi Chunfeng dodged, the sword puppet launched another attack. The lightsaber slashed through the void, and a 100-meter-long crescent sword light, like a waning moon descending to the mortal world, viciously slashed towards Yi Chunfeng. This slash caused the entire space to become chaotic. It greatly slowed down Yi Chunfeng's flying speed, giving him a feeling that he had nowhere to hide. Yi Chunfeng had no choice but to clench his teeth and pour the 9 heavens sword force, over 200,000 kilograms of strength, and the power of the profound cold spirit water into the gigantic fault heavenly sword, maximizing its offensive power to the greatest extent. Instant kill sword! Yi Chunfeng roared. His body fused with the gigantic fault heavenly sword, turning into an extremely thin white sword shadow. It was like a meteor that struck the crescent sword light. Rumble! A power that surpassed what Yi Chunfeng could endure burst out. It was so strong that it shattered Yi Chunfeng's instant kill sword strike, which he had used to fuse the 3 great powers. A large amount of sword force broke into Yi Chunfeng's body, blasting him 100 meters away, and he fell into the starry sky. Blood flowed uncontrollably from his body. The terrifying sword force recklessly destroyed his body and surged towards his heart. At this moment Yi Chunfeng could already smell the scent of death. At this critical moment, the parasitic chaotic divine wood in Yi Chunfeng's heart protected it, blocking the sword force's attack with layers of root. Chaotic divine wood. Yi Chunfeng, who was covered in cold sweat, let out a long sigh of relief. If it weren't for the chaotic divine wood protecting his heart would probably have been pierced through. Even if he didn't die, his cultivation would be crippled. "Yes, I didn't think that with your strength, you would be able to block my sword head-on without dying." The sword puppet looked at Yi Chunfeng, who was covered in blood and lying in space, and was slightly surprised. However, even with the chaotic divine wood protecting his heart, Yi Chunfeng wasn't confident that he could block the sword puppet's attacks for 2 hours without dying. At this moment, only slightly more than 10 minutes had passed. "Let's see how many of my sword attacks you can block." The sword puppet's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Its entire body turned into a swift sword light, and with a speed that was several times faster than the speed of light, it pierced towards Yi Chunfeng. As the sword pierced out, a strange vortex appeared in the endless space. The entire space seemed to be swallowed by the vortex, and it was pitch black. Not good! Yi Chunfeng felt the approach of death from the sword puppet's sword. He didn't doubt that if he couldn't block this sword, he would definitely die. Golden rock blood essence, burn. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and burned the thin golden rock blood in his blood. He activated the golden rock wing's fastest speed and quickly flew into the air, dodging the sword puppet's sword attack. Explode! The instant Yi Chunfeng dodged, the sword puppet's sword slashed at the void. The powerful force tore a several hundred-meter-long sword scar in the void, stirring up an endless black storm and bombarding Yi Qinfeng's body. Golden rock wings protect. Feeling the terror of the black storm, Yi Qinfeng hurriedly controlled the golden rock wings in front of him to block the destructive power of the black storm. Chapter 150. Buzz. Buzz, just as Yi Qinfeng's body was about to be shredded by the black storm, the amulet that Xue Piaoling had given him suddenly shattered. A strong defensive light shone from his body, forcefully blocking the attack of the black storm. It's that amulet. Looking at the defensive light around his body, Yi Qinfeng thought of the amulet that Xue Piaoling had given him. It could block an all-out attack from a master of the Xian Beast sect. If it wasn't for this amulet, the power of the sword puppet's sword would have been enough to destroy his body and kill him. However, even if he survived under the protection of the amulet, he wouldn't be able to block the sword puppet's next attack. It was only a matter of time before he died. What should I do? Am I really going to die here? Looking at the near-invincible sword puppet that was stepping on the void and approaching him step by step, Yi Qinfeng felt a strong sense of helplessness. His heart sank to the bottom. Right, I still have a trump card that I haven't used. Perhaps this trump card can turn the tide. Just as the sword puppet's body shone with an invincible sword light, Yi Qinfeng's mind flashed. He suddenly thought of a trump card that could turn the situation around. And this trump card was the God-Eater Brain Division, the Soul-Eater Brain Division that could devour the consciousness of the brain. Success or failure depends on this. Yi Qinfeng took a deep breath and prepared for the final fight. If the Soul-Eater Brain Division failed, then he would undoubtedly be killed by the sword puppet. 7 Swords of Judgment, Extreme Chill. In order to get closer to the sword puppet, Yi Qinfeng decided to attack with all his might. The 9 sword moves in his body gushed out and forcefully deduced the power of the Great Tao, forming an endless chill that froze the vast starry sky. Slash! When the power of the Great Tao reached its peak, Yi Qinfeng turned his body into a sword and forcefully slashed out the extreme chill sword light. It tore through the starry sky and slashed at the sword puppet. Break! The sword puppet looked at the frozen void and the extreme chill sword light that contained the power of the Great Tao slashing at it. Its gem-like eyes shone with light. A shocking sword light pierced through the sky and slashed at Yi Qinfeng's extreme chill sword light. When the 2 sword lights collided, a huge wave was set off. The boundless power was like a surging wave that slammed into the starry sky, ripping it apart. Whoosh! When the 2 powerful forces collided, Yi Qinfeng endured the intense feeling of weakness in his body and controlled the golden rock's wings to flap furiously. He didn't care about the damage to his body and the huge risk, and took the risk to approach the sword spirit puppet. Die! Bathed in the storm, the sword spirit puppet was not affected in the slightest. When it saw that Yi Qinfeng dared to approach it, its bright eyes reflected a dense killing intent. The light sword in its hand pierced towards Yi Qinfeng's chest at an extremely fast speed, wanting to pierce through his chest. Mind of the Devourer, devour! Seeing that Yi Qinfeng's chest was about to be pierced, Yi Qinfeng immediately dodged. However, the sword spirit puppet's speed was too fast. The sword aura condensed on the surface of the light sword still cut through Yi Qinfeng's body, almost splitting him in half. A large amount of blood spurted out like a fountain. The moment Yi Qinfeng's body was severely wounded, a beam of bloody light shot out from his mind and struck the sword puppet's head. The mind of the devourer quickly wriggled into the sword puppet's head through its 7 orifices and began to devour his soul. Waves of terrifying soul energy exploded from the sword spirit puppet's mind, sending Yi Qinfeng, who was bleeding profusely, flying. Sure enough, the mind of the devourer can devour the sword puppet's soul. Looking at the sword spirit puppet that was holding its head with both hands and letting out a painful roar, the severely injured Yi Qinfeng heaved a long sigh of relief. He tried his best to distance himself from the berserk sword spirit puppet so that he wouldn't be affected. I wonder if the mind of the devourer can devour the sword puppet's soul. If it fails, I'm finished. Yi Chunfeng used the soul-devouring technique to heal his injuries while looking at the roaring sword puppet from afar. He prayed silently in his heart. Time ticked by. The sword puppet clutched its head and roared for half an incense stick's time. The soul power released from its mind grew weaker and weaker. Gradually, the mind of the devourer devoured the sword puppet's soul and took over its brain, establishing a connection with the mind of the devourer. Phew, I finally succeeded. Yi Chunfeng heaved a sigh of relief when he sensed that the sword puppet had lost its own consciousness and was completely under the control of the mind of the devourer. His face was filled with excitement. At this moment, a crack appeared in the endless starry sky. A shocked true spirit appeared in the starry sky. It looked at Yi Chunfeng as if he was a monster and asked, "What did you do to the sword puppet? Why did Master's soul in its mind disappear?" Junior has a treasure that can devour souls. The sword puppet's soul was devoured by that treasure of mine. Yi Chunfeng vaguely explained. A treasure that can devour souls. The true spirit and tablet spirit were even more shocked. Senior, now that the sword puppet is under my control, does this mean that I pass? Yi Chunfeng looked at the true spirit and asked. Pass. Before the sword puppet could speak, a massive soul power appeared in the starry sky. It gathered into a giant meteor-like head and spoke in a deep voice. Master. Looking at the giant head before them, the true spirit and tablet spirit were filled with excitement. They both knelt on the ground and bowed respectfully. As for Yi Chunfeng, he looked at the head that was emitting a terrifying pressure. His heart was in turmoil, and a look of respect appeared on his face. It's been more than 100,000 years. The treasure I left here finally has a successor. The eyes of the huge head, which were as deep as the stars in the sky, looked at the fearless Yi Chunfeng, who was enduring its pressure, and said with satisfaction, "Before I give you a reward, you need to answer a question of mine." "Senior, please ask away," Yi Chunfeng said in a tone that was neither haughty nor humble. "Accepting the inheritance of the Spirit Clan means that you will have to shoulder the blood debt of the Spirit Clan. This path of revenge is very likely a path of no return. Are you willing to embark on this path of no return and avenge the Spirit Clan?" The giant head asked. "Senior, may I know who the enemy of the Spirit Clan is?" Yi Chunfeng thought for a moment and asked. "You are too weak now. There is no need to know who the enemy of the Spirit Clan is. You only need to answer if you are willing to shoulder the blood debt of the Spirit Clan and avenge the Spirit Clan," the giant head said. "I am willing." Yi Chunfeng took in a deep breath, nodded and said. The reason he agreed was not only because he had an inexplicable good impression of the Spirit Clan, but more importantly, the path of cultivation was a path of no return. A great opportunity was in front of him, and he could not give it up no matter what. "Okay, then swear to the heavens. After you swear, I will give you the most precious treasure in the true spirit realm," the giant head said in a low voice. "I, Yi Chunfeng, am willing to swear to the heavens that I will shoulder the blood debt of the Spirit Clan and kill the enemy." Yi Chunfeng nodded and swore to the heavens without hesitation. Chapter 151. Yi Chunfeng, before I give you the reward, I'll tell you who I am. My name is Ling Chutian, the spirit god of the Spirit Clan in the Heaven Domain. However, I've already fallen. What you see now is just a wisp of my soul. The giant head opened its mouth and spoke in a deep voice. Spirit God. After knowing the identity of the giant head, Yi Chunfeng's heart was in turmoil. Although he didn't know what the spirit god realm was, he knew that a person who could be called a spirit god was definitely a great figure at the peak of the realm. Therefore, he was curious about the Heaven Domain. "Senior, what kind of place is the Heaven Domain?" "The Heaven Domain is above your fighting spirit continent. It's a vast space. When your strength reaches the limit of the fighting spirit continent, you'll have the opportunity to tear open the void lightning gate and ascend to the heaven domain. And this true spirit secret realm is the simplest place of inheritance left behind by the spirit clan in the heaven domain. Now that you've passed all the tests in the true spirit secret realm, in addition to the ultimate reward, you're qualified to challenge other places of inheritance. Ling Chutian said. Senior, this isn't the only place of inheritance left behind by the spirit clan? Yi Chunfeng raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise. Yes, the spirit clan left behind hundreds of places of inheritance in various spaces. However, these places of inheritance are divided into 4 grades. The true spirit secret realm you passed is the lowest grade and also the simplest place of inheritance. It'll get harder and harder as you go. Ling Chutian nodded and said, The true spirit secret realm is the simplest place of inheritance. Yi Chunfeng sucked in a breath of cold air. He couldn't imagine how difficult the other places of inheritance would be. You should know that the treasures left behind by the spirit clan in these places of inheritance were passed down by the spirit clan for hundreds of millions of years. They're extremely precious. As for the last place of inheritance in my soul, it's related to a great secret. It's because of this secret that the spirit clan was destroyed. Alright, it's too early to tell you some things. We'll talk about it after you pass the tests of the other places of inheritance. Now I'll give you your reward. Then, Ling Chutian opened his mouth and a white stream of light shot out from his mouth and blasted into Yi Chunfeng's mind. The next moment, a topographic map condensed from white light appeared in Yi Chunfeng's mind. This is the second land of inheritance left behind by the spirit clan in the soul-fighting continent. It's located in the Deity Sea, the core of the 3 divine nations in the central continent. However, it's up to you whether you can pass through this land of inheritance. Remember, the second land of inheritance is far more difficult than the true spirit realm. If you don't have enough strength, don't go there without permission. Otherwise, you will lose your life, Ling Chutian solemnly reminded. Junior understands. Yi Chunfeng nodded and said, Yi Chunfeng, do you know what the most precious treasure in this true spirit secret realm is? Ling Chutian asked. Is this the sword puppet? Yi Chunfeng said as he looked at the near-invincible sword puppet that was completely controlled by the Devourer God. That's right. The most precious treasure in this true spirit secret realm is the sword puppet that the spirit clan's experts spent 100 years to refine. Ling Chutian nodded and said, Now that you've passed the test of the sword puppet, it's yours in the future. Many thanks, Senior. Yi Chunfeng was overjoyed when he heard that Ling Chutian was giving the sword puppet to him. With the help of the sword puppet, he didn't need to fear the experts of the 3 sections. Don't be too happy yet. This sword puppet's energy has been depleted. If you want to control the sword puppet to attack, you will need to fuse 3 peak-grade soul crystals into its body. Only then can the sword puppet attack. Ling Chutian said as she looked at the excited Yi Chunfeng. 3 peak-grade soul crystals? Yi Chunfeng's eyes widened in shock. Not to mention peak-grade soul crystals, he didn't even have a single high-grade soul crystal. Right now, he only had 500 mid-grade soul crystals and several tens of thousands of low-grade soul crystals on him. Senior, do you know if low-grade soul crystals can replace peak-grade soul crystals to control the sword puppet's attack? This junior really can't get any peak-grade soul crystals. Yi Chunfeng asked with a bitter smile. Low-grade soul crystals won't work, but mid-grade soul skills should work. However, mid-grade soul crystals don't contain pure soul energy. I estimate that you will need at least 50,000 mid-grade soul crystals to control the sword puppet's attack. Moreover, if you use mid-grade soul crystals as energy stones, the sword puppet's attack power will be greatly affected. At most, it can only display the strength of a Class 5 Mystic Beast Ancestor. Ling Chutian said. Class 5 Mystic Beast Ancestor? That's enough strength. Although Yi Chunfeng only had 500 mid-grade soul crystals on him, they weren't hard to exchange for in the fighting spirit continent. After selling all the treasures on him, he still had a chance to exchange for 50,000 mid-grade soul crystals. Other than the sword puppet, I'll also give you these 6 caddies of Spring of Life and 6 caddies of Heavenly Fate water. These 6 caddies of Spring of Life can restore 6,000 years of your lifespan. It's enough for you to use the Life Soul Art. Ling Chutian gave Yi Chenfeng 2 porcelain bottles that contained a mustard seed space and whispered, "The value of this Heavenly Fate water isn't any lower than the Spring of Life. It can instantly restore your soul power and save your life in a critical moment." "Thank you, Senior." Yi Chenfeng put the 2 porcelain bottles into his spatial bag and thanked Ling Chutian gratefully. Ling Chutian didn't give all the treasures in the true spirit secret realm to Yi Chenfeng and said slowly, "All right, I've given you all the treasures I can give you. I'll leave the rest for the fated ones." After all, Ling Chutian couldn't guarantee that Yi Chenfeng would be able to reach the end. If he died midway, Ling Chutian would have to continue selecting geniuses through the true spirit secret realm to pave the way for her revenge. "Yi Chenfeng, I'm going to continue sleeping. I hope you can make it to the end." With that, Ling Chutian opened her mouth and spat out a terrifying power that sent Yi Chenfeng out of the starry sky. "Yi Chenfeng, to be honest, I really didn't expect that you would be able to pass all 3 tests of the true spirit realm and obtain the most precious reward of the true spirit realm." The true spirit looked at the tall and straight Yi Chenfeng, who didn't look happy or sad, and said emotionally. Although Yi Chenfeng wasn't very strong right now, the true spirit could feel an aura that could surpass the 9 heavens from him. This junior was able to pass the true spirit secret realm mostly because of luck. Yi Chenfeng said humbly, "Luck is only one aspect. Some people become more courageous when faced with setbacks. Some people retreat when faced with difficulties. Some people can even turn a calamity into an opportunity. It can't be said that they are lucky, but they have an unyielding belief and confidence in themselves. And you are such a person. I have high hopes for your future. All right, I'll keep my promise and bring you to the spirit pond of the secret realm. I'll help you mutate your spiritual beast and break through to the first level of the heavenly beast immortal realm." Chapter 152. Yi Chenfeng, this is a pool of spiritual milk. The age of this spiritual milk is more than 100,000 years old. It's enough for you to mutate your spiritual beast and break through to the heavenly beast immortal realm. The true spirit floated above the spiritual pond and pointed at the spiritual milk. "Thank you, Senior. I'll go in and cultivate now." Yi Chenfeng nodded. He quickly took off his clothes and jumped into the spiritual pond, which was as viscous as milk. If he could break through to the heavenly beast immortal realm in the true spirit secret realm, he would be able to kill his way out even if he was surrounded by the experts of the 3 major sections. "Don't worry and cultivate. No one will disturb you here." The true spirit nodded and said, "Soul-devouring art, devour." Yi Chenfeng soaked in the spiritual pond with his eyes closed. His breathing was steady and strong as he slowly circulated the soul-devouring art and absorbed the powerful spiritual milk to break through to the level 1 heavenly beast immortal realm. Under the devouring of the soul-devouring art, the spiritual milk, which was enough to make the disciples of the various sects jealous, entered his body through his pores and rapidly increased his soul power. Feeling the benefits of the spiritual milk, Yi Chenfeng began to multitask. While circulating the soul-devouring art, he also began to circulate the 6 meridian god shield to force the spiritual milk into his meridians. He worked hard to cultivate the tendon refinement realm to the greater success realm. As the 10,000 years spirit milk in Yi Chenfeng's body increased, the parasitic chaos divine wood in his heart meridian was awakened. A large amount of spirit roots released a suction force and quickly devoured the 10,000 years spirit milk, instantly increasing the speed of Yi Chenfeng's body devouring. Under the frenzied devouring of the spiritual milk by the chaos divine wood, There was a surge of spiritual chi in the spiritual pond. Finally, it covered his body. Just as Yi Chunfeng was cultivating in the spiritual pond to break through to the level 1 heavenly beast immortal realm, the experts of the 3 major sects who had been waiting for nearly a month could no longer hold it in. Elder Yu, that Yi Chunfeng should have died in the true spirit secret realm long ago. What's the point of us waiting endlessly like this? Elder Hu frowned and said impatiently, "Let's wait for another month. If that little bastard still doesn't come out in a month, we'll return to the Heavenly Fire sect." Yu Ming's eyes flickered with an ominous glint as he said softly. The son of the Netherworld was unwilling to kill Yi Chunfeng with his own hands and avenge Yushan Xian. Furthermore, Yi Chunfeng seemed to be hiding a huge secret. However, the true spirit secret realm was too strange, and he did not dare to go in and look for Yi Chunfeng. Child of Netherworld and Elder of Thunderbird Mountain gradually lost their patience. The Elders of Stormy Valley and Thunderbird Mountain were even more impatient. 2 days later, the Elders of the Storm Valley and the Thunderbird Mountain left on their flying mounts one after another. Below the true spirit realm, there were only 2 people waiting patiently. Time passed day by day. After 5 days of cultivation, the 10,000-year spiritual milk in the spiritual pond had decreased by 1/3. However, most of it had been devoured by the Chaos Divine Wood. Only a small portion of it had been refined by Yi Chunfeng and merged into his body. Although the Chaos Divine Wood had devoured a large amount of 10,000-year spiritual milk, Yi Chunfeng could feel that his foundation was becoming more solid as the energy within the Chaos Divine Wood slowly increased. More importantly, Yi Chunfeng could feel a strand of chaotic energy slowly growing within the Chaos Divine Wood. If the Chaos Divine Wood could regenerate the chaotic energy, then Yi Chunfeng would have another heaven-defying trump card. He has already devoured 1/3 of the 10,000-year spiritual milk. Why hasn't he broken through to the level 1 heavenly beast immortal realm? When did it become so difficult to break through to the level 1 heavenly beast immortal realm? The monument spirit looked at the decreasing 10,000-year spiritual milk and asked in confusion. This Yi Chunfeng's secret is extraordinary. Although he hasn't been able to break through to the next realm, I can feel that his cultivation foundation is becoming more and more solid. Such a solid cultivation foundation is rare even in the spirit clan of the heaven domain. Yi Chunfeng's future achievements will be limitless. The true spirit looked at Yi Chunfeng with shining eyes, its voice full of praise. After another day of cultivation, Yi Chunfeng's body suddenly erupted with a powerful physical strength. After several days of cultivation, Yi Chunfeng had finally reached the great accomplishment realm of the tendon refining realm. His pure physical strength had reached 200,000 gene of strength. Soul and body dual cultivator. So he wasn't born with divine strength, but a soul and body dual cultivator. Feeling Yi Chunfeng's sudden increase in physical strength, the true spirit and the monument spirit both revealed shocked expressions. It could be said that soul and body dual cultivator was an extremely difficult cultivation path. Although soul and body dual cultivator's combat strength was extremely powerful in the early stages, the further one cultivated, the more difficult it would become. It would instead drag down one's cultivation progress. Yi Chunfeng had just reached the great accomplishment realm of the tendon refining realm, when a large amount of cracks appeared on the surface of the blood egg that had swallowed a large amount of 10,000-year-old spirit milk. A powerful soul energy was released from the blood egg. His spiritual beast is finally going to hatch. I wonder what kind of powerful spiritual beast he will be able to breed. Sensing the rapid increase in Yi Chunfeng's soul power, the true spirit and tablet spirit both revealed looks of anticipation. They didn't doubt that once the blood egg hatched, it would definitely give birth to a powerful soul beast. Roar! Suddenly, an extremely penetrating dragon roar resounded in Yi Chunfeng's body. The cracked blood egg suddenly shattered and gave birth to a blood shadow. It flew out of Yi Chunfeng's mind and hovered above Yi Chunfeng's head. Blood Dragon. Yi Qinfeng's soul beast is a blood dragon. Seeing the blood shadow flying out of Yi Qinfeng's mind, the true spirit and the monument spirit were shocked. Dragons could be said to be the most powerful soul beast. Yi Qinfeng's soul beast was not an ordinary dragon, but a mutated dragon blood dragon. After the blood egg hatched a blood dragon, Yi Qinfeng's soul energy was already overflowing. His strength instantly skyrocketed and directly broke through the bottleneck to reach the level 1 heavenly beast immortal realm. The moment Yi Qinfeng's realm increased, he discovered that the God-Eater brain that had fused with him had also undergone a transformation. Not only did it greatly increase his comprehension, but a large amount of soul memories also appeared in his mind. Array Rune Inheritance, Alchemy Inheritance. Yi Qinfeng carefully browsed through the soul memories and found that they were divided into two parts. One part was the Array Rune Inheritance, and the other part was the Alchemy Inheritance. It turns out that the God-Eater brain can constantly transform according to my realm. Yi Qinfeng muttered in his heart. He was full of excitement. He didn't dare to imagine how incredible his comprehension would be as the God-Eater brain continued to transform. After hatching the blood egg and breaking through to the level 1 heavenly beast immortal realm, Yi Qinfeng didn't stop cultivating. Instead, he continued to devour the 10,000-year spirit milk in the spiritual pool to cultivate and nurture the chaotic energy. It wasn't until the true spirit saw that the 10,000-year spirit milk in the spiritual pool was almost empty that it had to stop awakening Yi Qinfeng. All right, Yi Qinfeng. Leave some 10,000-year spirit milk for other fated people. The true spirit looked at the remaining 10,000-year spirit milk and said with a bitter smile. All right then. Yi Qinfeng, who had cultivated to the peak of the level 1 heavenly beast immortal realm, opened his tightly shut eyes. He slowly stood up and stretched lazily. Although he hadn't broken through to the level 2 heavenly beast immortal realm, the chaotic divine wood that had devoured 90% of the 10,000-year spirit milk had successfully nurtured a wisp of chaotic energy. It gave him a trump card that was enough to instantly kill the mystic beast sex expert. Chapter 153. Yi Qinfeng, I've given you everything I can. You can leave now. True Spirit looked at Yi Qinfeng, whose aura had grown several times stronger and whose eyes were shining with sharp sword light, and said softly, Senior, can you help me sense if there's anyone outside the True Spirit's secret realm? Yi Qinfeng asked. Sure. True Spirit nodded. A powerful energy burst out from his body, and energy ripples appeared in the sky above the True Spirit's secret realm. In the next moment, the entrance to the True Spirit's secret realm that had been closed long ago appeared again, alarming the two who were waiting patiently with their eyes closed. The True Spirit's secret realm has opened again. Could it be that the little bastard really survived and is coming out? Looking at the spatial black hole that appeared above his head, a sharp murderous aura exuded from his body. He and Elder Hua both took out their weapons and locked onto the spatial black hole. Once Yi Qinfeng appeared from the spatial black hole, the two of them would launch a thunderous attack to kill Yi Qinfeng and take everything from him. There are 2 level 5 heavenly beast immortals outside. Other than them, there's no one else. True Spirit retracted his senses and asked, Yi Qinfeng, are they your enemies? Yes, they haven't left yet. They should be waiting for me to come out so that they can kill me and take everything from me. Yi Qinfeng nodded and said, Do you need me to help you kill them? True Spirit asked. No need. I'm just looking for someone to test my strength. These two are just right. Yi Qinfeng's lips curled up slightly, and a cold intent appeared in his eyes as he said with a high battle intent. Although Yi Qinfeng's strength was far from True Spirit and Elder Hua's, the gigantic Fault Heavenly Sword, a low-grade celestial artifact, had 9 sword forces and 200,000 gene of strength. It was enough to make up for the difference. All right. Get ready. I'll send you out. True Spirit nodded and said as he thought of Yi Qinfeng's trump card. Yi Chen-feng left the spirit pool and took out the spring of life. He drank 3 mouthfuls and recovered his 300 years of life. He warmed up his body and prepared himself. Yi Chen-feng, we'll meet again if fate wills it. I hope you can make it to the end and pass the remaining 3 trials of the spirit race's most precious inheritance. After saying that, a spatial crack appeared above Yi Chen-feng's head. A powerful teleportation power covered his body and teleported him out of the true spirit mystery realm. He appeared outside. He's out. Both Child of the Netherworld and young Master Yu Ming were filled with killing intent. When they saw a figure fly out of the spatial crack, they immediately recognized that this figure was Yi Chen-feng. 2 terrifying killing intent radiated from their bodies and locked onto Yi Chen-feng. Little bastard, you're finally out. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Netherworld Child roared, and the image of a black serpent surfaced from his body. His soul force surged into the 9-foot 9-inch-long white spiral spear in his hand. A sharp spear light tore through the air like a dragon as it slashed towards Yi Chen-feng. Son of the Netherworld's spear attack was extremely fast, but Yi Chen-feng's reaction was faster. His body flashed slightly, and he dodged Son of the Netherworld's spear attack before landing on the ground. In the next moment, a blood dragon that was over 100 meters long and covered in blood-red scales and had coral-like dragon horns appeared before him. It let out a furious dragon roar at the Netherworld Patriarch and the Netherworld Patriarch. Dragon! This little bastard's spirit beast is a dragon. Son of the Netherworld duo was shocked when they saw the blood-red dragon behind Yi Chen-feng. Dragons were the pinnacle of spirit beasts and hadn't appeared for a long time. They couldn't accept that Yi Chen-feng, who came from the Marshall House, had a spirit beast that they didn't even dare to imagine. Little bastard, I've really underestimated you. However, it's useless even if you have a top-tier spirit beast, a dragon. You're destined to die in our hands. Seeing Yi Chen-feng's spirit beast, they were even more determined to kill Yi Chen-feng. If they couldn't kill Yi Chen-feng this time, he would bring a devastating disaster to the Heavenly Fire sect once he grew stronger. It's still not certain who will die. Yi Chen-feng's pupils contracted into the most dangerous pinhole shape. A sharp 9-layered sword aura gushed out from his body. The sword aura was so strong that Son of the Netherworld and the other 2 felt a strong sense of suffocation. The air was cut into thousands of holes. Sword force 9-layered heavens. Feeling the sword force gushing out from Yi Chen-feng's body, Son of the Netherworld duo suffered another blow. This was because even the Sword Hall's Hall Master, Jian Yuan, had yet to comprehend the sword force to the 9th layer. It could be said that Yi Chen-feng's talent had already made them feel fear and regret. If Yi Chen-feng became a disciple of the Heavenly Fire sect, it wouldn't take long for the Heavenly Fire sect to surpass the Fengyun Valley under his leadership and become the well-deserved overlord of the North Snow County. However, regret was useless. In order to avoid Yi Chen-feng's revenge, they could only kill him with all their might and eliminate the great threat. Roar! A fiery red lion appeared on Elder Hua's body. Then, a red flame burned in Elder Hua's body, burning the air with a sizzling sound. Flames! Could it be that Elder Hua has subdued a spiritual fire? Seeing the red flame on Elder Hua's body, Yi Chen-feng revealed a look of surprise. No, this isn't a spiritual fire. It should be a pseudo-spiritual fire that was cultivated. Yi Chen-feng sensed the flames burning on the surface of Elder Hua's body and felt that its power was far inferior to a spiritual fire. He guessed that the red flame should be a pseudo-spiritual fire cultivated by the Heavenly Fire sect. Fire Soul Fist. The moment Elder Hua merged with his spiritual beast, the pseudo-spiritual fire that covered his body surged into his right fist. A fist radiance with a long flaming tail smashed towards Yi Chen-feng. Sword Force 9 Heavens Break! Yi Chen-feng slapped his Qiankuan pouch, and the gigantic Fault Heavenly Sword, a low-grade heaven artifact that weighed over 5,000 kilograms, appeared in his hand. The sharp sword light slashed out a long sword mark in the void as it broke Elder Hua's fire soul fist. Such power! Could it be a celestial artifact? Feeling the attack power of the gigantic fault heavenly sword, Son of the Netherworld duo shuddered as their eyes burned with passion. This was because even the Heavenly Fire sect didn't have a celestial artifact. A celestial artifact was definitely a legendary treasure. Elder Hua, let's go together. I don't believe that we can't kill him together. As he spoke, the long spear in Son of the Netherworld's hand turned into a dragon that bared its fangs and brandished its claws. It rolled and attacked Yi Qinfeng. While Son of the Netherworld was attacking with all his might, Elder Hua also attacked. The scorching fist radiance was like a huge fireball as it continuously attacked Yi Qinfeng's body. Instant kill sword. Yi Qinfeng's eyes narrowed as his entire body merged with the gigantic fault heavenly sword. The sharp sword force broke through layers of space as a sword shadow that surpassed the speed of light pierced through Elder Hua's flaming fist radiance and pierced Son of the Netherworld's long spear. Kacha! The crisp sound of a weapon breaking was heard. Although Son of the Netherworld's strength was far superior to Yi Qinfeng's, the long spear in Son of the Netherworld's hand was only a low-grade earthly artifact. It couldn't withstand the attack of the gigantic fault heavenly sword at all. The hard surface of the spear cracked. Yi Qinfeng wasn't in a good state either. After taking on the attacks of Son of the Netherworld and Elder Hua, his blood was boiling violently. His right hand that was holding the gigantic fault heavenly sword was a little numb as a large amount of blood flowed out of his cracked skin. If his spiritual beast hadn't transformed into a blood dragon and cultivated his 6 Meridian Divine shield to the 4th level, his arm would have exploded from taking on Son of the Netherworld's attack. A level 5 heavenly beast immortal is indeed not simple. Yi Qinfeng took a deep breath as he suppressed the surging blood in his heart and unleashed the full strength of 200,000 pounds. What? That wasn't his limit? Sensing that Yi Qinfeng's strength had skyrocketed again, Son of the Netherworld and Elder Hua's expressions changed at the same time. They couldn't believe that Yi Qinfeng, who was only a level 1 heavenly beast immortal, had so many trump cards that could threaten their lives. With his physical strength fully unleashed, Yi Qinfeng's fighting spirit reached its peak. He stepped on the shape-shifting phantom and instantly created countless sword shadows as he took the initiative to attack the two of them.